Show presented by Dunkin.
Looks down the middle, throws it, caught by Henry at the 2, fights away from a tackler, and runs to the end zone, and spikes it for a Patriots touchdown!
The Patriots Pregame Show is the world's largest virtual tailgate, featuring fans of the 6-time Super Bowl champion New England Patriots.
Fires down the middle for Gordon, reaches up, extends, lands in the end zone, between two defenders, touchdown, Patriots!
Christian Arcan, Mike Dussault, Paul Perillo, and Tamara Brown are here to do the grilling as your hosts. This week, the Patriots close out their preseason on the road against the Las Vegas Raiders.
James White cuts it under the right arm, cuts it upfield, driving forward, diving to the goal line! A touchdown! And a title for the Patriots!
I can't believe it!
Christian Arcan, Mike Dussault, Paul Perillo, and Tamara Brown are here to get you ready for the game.
It's football time, fellas. Let's get into it.
Now, live from our studios inside Gillette Stadium, Patriots Nation, welcome to the Patriots Pregame Show presented by Dunkin.
And hello, welcome in. It is Patriots Pregame presented by Dunkin. I'm Christian Arcand in for Hardy. Coming a little hot here. Sorry about that.
Presence.
It took every bit of me not to say 98.5 The Sports Hub right then.
Well,
so,
now I understand why your college radio station wouldn't let you work.
That's exactly right.
Okay.
They wouldn't do it.
We'll get to that later in the show.
I am in the Hardy chair right now. I am being told I'm in the wrong seat, wrong part of the seat. There we go. Much better. Mike Dussault, Paul Perillo. Hello, fellas.
Hello. What's up?
Go easy on me tonight, all right?
Oh,
you go easy on
I
us.
will give you a segment. If you prove that you do not belong, I will be firing.
I'm out.
Double barrels.
Okay, that works for me.
We'll have some fun.
It's preseason week 3, the preseason finale. The Patriots out west in Las Vegas. Facilities that Bill Belichick could not stop raving about. He really had a great time out there. The Patriots seem to be getting better. Had their best practice in the joint practices yesterday, according to them. We did hear from Bird Breer that the Raiders thought that was their best practice yesterday, so we can get into that in a little bit. But let's go ahead and start with our keys to the game. Mike, you want to go ahead and give yours?
Why did you leave the keys up on the table? You wanted to.
You've waited all week for it.
The whole team's in the locker room right now just listening to this, waiting to hear what you're going to say.
Without these keys, the Patriots are destined and doomed to fail.
Here are Hardy, Paul, Mike, and Tamara's keys to the game.
Why did I steal your key to the game also?
You have the key to it. You have the right one.
All right, I'm just going to jump right in because I already got set up for it. So my key for the game is pop the bubble. I was trying to think of a clever thing, Paul, with bubble. I wasn't going to do blow bubbles. That didn't seem right. So pop the bubble. But I think tonight's about bubble guys trying to make it individual performances. We don't know who's going to play. I don't know if the starters are going to. I don't think we're going to see Mac Jones probably. That's just a speculation.
Looks like maybe a cameo.
But I think it's about these lower level guys trying to find a roster spot. I think there's a lot of questions along the defensive line, offensive line, as to the depth in those guys, as to who might be part of the plan going forward, who could maybe push a veteran off of the team. So that's what I'll be watching. Some of these guys, Brendan Schooler, LeBrian Ray, guys.
DeMarcus Mitchell.
DeMarcus Mitchell's a great one. I know you like him, Paul. As well as Yodny. He's not your guy? No. Yodny Kajust, and just how are these guys going to play? And of course, I got to mention, I like Jabril Peppers, so I'm curious.
Well, he's not a bubble guy.
He's been warming up.
Well, he better not be a bubble guy.
I want to see him play.
Or I'm going to be all over you if he's a bubble guy.
He's not a bubble. They need someone out there to set the tone, though. But that's mine. Keep an eye on the bubble guys. I don't know if we're going to take much out of the team performance. The guys on the bubble.
Real quick before we go on to the next key. Are any of these position battles particularly compelling to you guys? Like, has there been any
backup stuff?
So right, that's how I feel.
Yeah, and it's going to be probably a great deal. I would think of our post-game show tonight is going to be sort of talking about a lot of these things. I couldn't agree with you more, Christian. Don't confuse having a hard time differentiating between players 49 through 53 and 54 through 65 as being good depth. You have some decisions to make in terms of what you want to keep. And, we talked about this a little on Thursday on Patriots Unfiltered, Mike. Do you have a young guy who maybe plays defensive line who plays special teams that might, in 2 or 3 years, project as a defensive lineman, as opposed to keeping a guy like Cody Davis who really, at this point, does not project as a safety? He's just a special teams player. Those kinds of decisions, don't confuse that with, we have incredible depth here at all these spots. It's going to be a hard time.
Cash one of them out.
No, you're deciding whether or not you want to keep 3 undrafted rookies or 5 undrafted rookies. That, to me, is not tremendous depth. I mean, there's intrigue in that. I think as Patriots fans, we all want to see if Brendan Schooler is, can fill one of those roles, or if DeMarcus Mitchell or LeBron Ray and those guys, all of those guys. I mean, this is an important night for all of those guys, but in the grand scheme of things, most of those decisions are not going to come into play with the win-loss record in 2022.
All right, let's hear your key to the game, Paul Perillo.
Yeah, mine's simple on the last game. Just get in, get out, stay healthy.
Yeah.
Make sure that no one and I don't want to make this sound disrespectful, but no one of relevance gets nicked up in a game like this. Out there this week, I know Isaiah Wynn was continuing to battle with something physical in Vegas, iffy, maybe a hand.
Looking at his hand out there.
So it just, I'm not opposed to getting a series or two like last week for the starting offense and defense, but fingers crossed, get in, get out, and stay healthy.
All right,
simple.
Mine's close to yours. It's protect Mac Jones. I'm more concerned about the offensive line, I feel like, than just about any other position group right now, based on all the problems that they've had and some of the personnel issues too. You got two of the premier defensive tackles, edge players in the game right now on this Raiders team, and I don't know how long they're going to play him. I don't know how long McDaniel's going to keep him out there. But if it's Isaiah Wynn and Trent Brown, great. Both of those guys have had some issues lately that we all know about. If it's Justin Herron and Yadni Kajust, I think we're all a little scared of that potential matchup for Mac. I don't know how much Mac's going to play, and I made this a key to the game before the reports came out that it was going to just be a quick cameo appearance from all these guys.
By not playing him, you're protecting him, right?
I suppose you are, but that to me is really important. I think he's had a tough camp with finally some good news here this past Wednesday with that one good practice, and building off of that is what I'd like to see, but at the very least, just keep him upright.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think you're totally right. I mean, I was out there in Vegas for the practices, and that seems like their biggest issue is, when there's instant pressure in his face. I mean, no quarterback's going to be able to do it, but I think, protect Judon, protect Mac. The key pieces you already know. Just make sure that they get out of here. I don't love this picture from Ben Volen, too, that looks like the field there in Vegas isn't looking so hot, so hopefully that doesn't play a role. Two other guys I just want to mention, though, Paulie. Pierre Strong and Kevin Harris, the two rookie running backs, haven't really seen anything from them this summer. We'd love to just see a little glimpse of something because they're probably roster locks.
I agree.
And it'd be nice to know that if Damian Harris gets hurt, because he did leave practice on Wednesday a little early, that some of these guys have some kind of, just
and
potential.
I think
we
there's
haven't
a
seen
chance,
anything.
because of what you said, if they're quiet again, that one of them, I have them all five on too, but I wouldn't call both of Strong and Harris roster locks. And everybody, I think, is in agreement that they're going to stay around. And I just wonder if maybe one of them – is that a way that you get a roster spot if you think you need to keep an extra defensive back? You have Terrence Mitchell, Sean Wade. You have room for both of those? Well, maybe you do if you get Kevin Harris to the practice squad.
Yeah, and I think Sean Wade's another interesting one who didn't really participate in practices out there, just kind of watching. So he's another one that wrong time to get an injury. He's right on the bubble. They need cornerbacks, so we'll see.
With that in mind, there's players here that have had, I don't want to say disciplinary issues, but were benched for the second game. How do you guys feel about the idea that the starters aren't going to be playing a lot today, and that, according to reports, the team seems to be happy, so happy, in fact, with the joint practices, that playing the starters isn't that big a deal?
Yeah, I came around on it. I mean, when I was out at practice on Wednesday, they did so much work. I mean, so many drills, 11 on 11, middle of the field, red zone, 2-minute. It was more than you've ever seen anybody play in a preseason game as far as the starters go. So I'm all for it. You get to this point, let's just keep everybody healthy. Could they use the work? I guess, but I mean, it's not really like they're going to actually be doing what they will be doing of game planning and all that. Why make them just go out there and run some of the plays again? It just seems dangerous to me.
Yeah, and to me, it wasn't as much about how they played, and it was how much. Like Mike said, the Wednesday practice, just in following it because I was here, but following the breathless reports of the play-by-play, which I love, Mike, there was a lot of 11 on 11 work. Maybe a couple of extra than what we normally see at a regular practice. So I think that was a sign that we're going to get our regulars all the work that we can here, and then maybe pull back a little bit. And it is, the 2-week thing is we're just getting used to. This is only the second year, this new preseason with only 3 games. So you do have 2 weeks, roughly, from tonight before the start of the season. So maybe you don't want to give them the night off completely, but I just think it's safer to do it on the practice field as opposed to, and like you said, talking about some issues with the playing surface too.
I want to combine your two keys of the game here because I think they both point to the wide receivers. There's a group of wide receivers that are all fighting for spots, and there's a couple wide receivers who got hurt, too. Wilkerson's out, Thornton's out. That may have thinned the herd out a little bit, but is that a position battle that you guys think may surprise us when it's all said and done here?
I don't think so. I mean, I think Paul and I are on the same page with the Lil Jordan Humphrey hype that, he's had a fine preseason, and I'm sure he'll have some catches today, but how many tall, not really that fast receivers do you need? Like, I get that he's been open and made some plays, but not really with Mac in games. I saw a little in Vegas. They started to give him some reps up there in the slot with Mac. Had a bad drop the first day when he was, literally like one of the first reps that they ran. It was like, oh, hey, look, Lil Jordan's out there getting some snaps with Mac. Ran like a little crosser and bang off his hands and drop. So I think it's kind of set. I mean, I think at some point you were wondering when Thornton was healthy and looking good of like, man, he really looks fast. He looks like he's going to change this offense a little bit. Would it make sense to maybe dump Aguilar or Bourne even with the camp that he's had? But with him out for a couple months, I think you're kind of set with what they've been running out there, which is Parker, Aguilar, and Myers is kind of the top three, and then Bourne has been kind of working his way in here.
I agree. I think the receiving situation is interesting because there's no real, in my opinion, you don't have high-end talent, but you have 4 competent players there. So it's one of those things. Would you rather have, 2 A's and 2 D's or 4 C's? And I think
sounds like my report card.
Well, I figured I'd break it down to simplistic terms that even a Holy Cross grad could understand. So, I think there's an argument to be made either way on that, but I do think they have 4 competent NFL players. I think Aguilar continues to get sort of the short end of the stick in this camp.
Yeah.
I think he's been really good all summer long. And I'm not the biggest, brightest supporter of Nelson Aguilar. I don't think he played all that well last year, but he's been consistently good throughout the summer, and people just sort of want to move on from him. I'm not really sure
I would say, though, Paul, and I'm just kind of putting this together in my little brain of mine, didn't really do much in Vegas. Now, upon reflection,
well, he's another one that
really
left.
Do much.
He was another one that left practice, right?
Yeah, he did leave practice the second day, and like I said, he did walk back onto the field and then spoke afterwards. So we just say cramping, right? Whenever it's hot, somebody leaves and just kind of comes back.
Plus, he spoke after practice,
yeah,
too.
So it didn't seem like he was doing anything, but it seems like he's feeling good and, really has kind of taken that little jump, which is weird to see Bourne. Everyone thought it was going to be Bourne.
He was the one guy that's done really anything in the passing game.
Yeah.
Like last week with two big catches, 1 third down and 1 down the field.
And I think that he's kind of dynamic in a way that with – on the outside with Parker, you kind of know what you have. It's contested catches and comebacks, and they've really been working in that slant that they tried last week that they didn't. But those are kind of his plays on the outside, which, we've seen people play that role before. And then, Myers certainly reliable, showing contested catchability as well. But, they kind of do what they do. There isn't a lot of like, hey, let's move them around and, try to exploit matchups. I think Aguilar could be, maybe your matchup guy because he has some speed. He has some experience in the slot. So, he might actually be more useful in terms of the game planning stuff than any of those guys. The other guys will kind of be in their spots, but I think maybe they can play with Aguilar a little bit. We'll see.
Earlier today, Trent Brown tweeted, "I'm ready to go home."
I saw that.
I did too.
He tweets a lot of song lyrics and stuff. I don't know that song, if that's a song lyric.
It's like Take Me Home, Country Roads.
Yeah, right.
Like, they could have had other options there.
I didn't want to jump all over him because maybe it's a song that I'm not familiar with.
And I tried.
I know Matt knows a lot of rap songs, too. I don't know if that's a song I'm not. There you go. Maybe he's a big fat guy and he's out in the desert and he's hot and he wants to go home.
I got to be honest with you. That's exactly how I took it.
Me too.
Yeah.
Having just been there, that's how I
he's
felt.
tired of being in 107-degree heat.
Yeah.
You'll know, Christian, I am the least social media savvy guy that you'll ever come across, like ever. Probably your parents are more social media active than I am. I try really hard not to read into that kind of stuff and get bogged down into those things. So I'm going to ignore that. But I want to talk about Trent Brown because I think he's an interesting topic.
It goes into the last question.
Yeah, and it goes to the whole Mike Reese thing when he talked about last week off the Panthers game, which he didn't dress for. And Mike Reese said, when he saw that they were all going to Vegas, Bourne and Brown, Mike Reese said the message was clear to him that there was a message sent to them. You practice better and you'll be able to play. And I'm paraphrasing his tweet now. And he was saying that Brown's effort level of urgency in the joint practices against the Panthers was lacking. And, I know we have our behind enemy lines coming up, so I want to get back to this. But I do wonder with Trent Brown how much effort is the issue.
All right, then. As you said, we have our Behind the Enemy Lines segment coming to you right now, and we will be talking with Vinny Bonsignor of
the
the
View from New England.
We go behind enemy lines.
Las Vegas Review Journal.
From the other side.
And that's why you're our favorite pregame show guest every year.
You guys know you tell everybody that.
Oh, yeah.
I was on with you guys in 2018 Thursday Night Football, and I was told I was the favorite guest of the show.
Nope.
No.
Time now to go behind enemy lines.
My God, it's coming right for us.
Well, I apologize for stepping all over every single piece of imaging that has been put together by Matt Burrell. I know he's worked really hard on all this, and I've ruined every single one of them so far. I'm like 3 for 3, so apologies all around. Let's go ahead to the phones, though, and welcome in our guest from the Las Vegas Review Journal. Vinny Bonsignor joins us here on the program. Vinny, how are you? Do we have any?
I could hear you a little bit.
Oh, there you are.
How about now?
Got you, buddy.
Oh,
Wonderful.
Perfect.
Vinny, it's been a pretty good week, I think, here for the Patriots. Certainly, all reports are pointing towards a good Wednesday practice. However, we heard from Burt Breer that the Raiders actually think they had their best practice on Wednesday. Who had the best practice on Wednesday?
Well, I know on Tuesday was one of the better Raider practices. On Wednesday, I thought it was pretty close. I thought that both teams worked out really well. By the way, what I heard coming in was Trent Brown effort. I kind of had to chuckle to myself a little bit.
Oh, I know. Yeah.
Give it to us.
Sorry about that, but yeah. No, I thought both teams on Wednesday, it was a lot more even than it was to open the joint practices. Because I thought on Tuesday, to be perfectly frank, the Raiders kind of had their way with the Patriots, especially offensively.
Yep.
But it got a little bit better for the Patriots, I should say, on Wednesday. And I thought that both teams got a lot of work in. There was nobody swinging helmets at anybody. There were no shenanigans, no fights. It was a clean workout for both days. And so I think that it was a productive day for the Patriots and the Raiders.
Well, Vinny, I'll let Paul tee you up on Trent Brown. Just curious what exactly you're expecting from the Raiders tonight. Do you think we'll see the starters? I mean, I was out there, and I was blown away by Devontae Adams. They were yelling at me yesterday for talking so much about him. I assume him and Hunter Renfrow are going to be wrapped in bubble wrap tonight.
Yeah, I would be shocked if any of those guys played, or Derek Carr. I still think some of the players that are in the running on the offensive line will probably see some time today. Some of the wide receivers that are kind of figuring into the mix, trying to fight for one of those last roster spots, will probably be out there, and some of the defensive players that are in kind of a similar situation. But I don't think you're going to see any guys like Max Crosby or Chandler Jones or Devontae or Hunter. Certainly not Darren Waller and Derek Carr.
Vinny, I'm just curious about the Josh McDaniels transition, and at times, he had the reputation here of being, a bit demanding, and I'm just wondering, just on your early impressions here, how the Raiders have taken to him and the new regime, and how the transition has gone so far.
I think guys like Derek Carr and the holdovers, especially the ones that were on the team last year that went to the playoffs, the guys that have been here for a while, I think they welcome demanding. I think they want demanding. I think that they know what is possible for this team, and they want accountability. They want standards to be set and for everybody to be held to those standards. That's kind of been lacking from this organization and this team for a long time. So for somebody like Josh McDaniels and Dave Ziegler to come in and say this is going to be the standard and we're not going to deviate from that is being welcomed with open arms, without question.
How did Bill and Josh seem together this week? How was sort of the dynamic of them interacting?
I thought it was, they had some brief moments, obviously, together. I'm sure behind the scenes it was a little bit more. But I think for me, what was fascinating when I saw the army of Boston and New England media that rolled into town, and I was wondering, okay, I've seen a side of Josh throughout, from day one when he got hired here through OTAs and minicamp and then training camp. I was kind of fascinated to see how it was going to be with him talking to you guys. And I thought what I came across was somebody that's really super comfortable being himself now. And I think that was probably a bit of a problem, when he went out to coach the Denver Broncos, maybe trying to emulate or be a little bit too much Bill Belichick. I think he's figured out that he just needs to be himself, and whether it works or not, he can live with whatever the results are because he's going to be himself. So it was really fascinating for me to kind of sit back and watch that dynamic of how he was going to be in front of all you guys, because everybody had a lot of questions, obviously, from the New England side of things. And so just watching him interact with his old folks from Boston, it was pretty interesting to see a man, I think, who's extremely comfortable with himself right now, and is extremely comfortable in the position that he is, the people he has around him, and what he's trying to create here in Las Vegas.
Yeah, I agree with you. I was in that room with Boston media peppering him with questions. It was great. Always loved Josh.
We know you do. You're always holding everybody's feet to the fire.
That's right. That's me. Vinny, generally, AFC West, it just seems like a murderer's row this year. One of those teams is going to finish in fourth place. What do you think that the Raiders have to do to, elevate in that division and maybe even take the title finally from the Chiefs?
Yeah, what's so interesting about that question is, for being honest, the last couple of years, for a long time, let's just say, the Raiders were going to games against teams that were like the Kansas City Chiefs, let's say, or the Patriots, one of the higher echelon teams in the NFL. And in the back of their minds, and I think everybody understood, like for them to really truly compete, it would take an off day from the opponent and almost having to play over their heads from themselves to have a chance to truly compete. I think those days are over. I think they go into almost every game, if not every game, including in their division, being able to look people in the eye now, talent-wise, and say, we can compete on that level. So what it's ultimately going to come down to, are you efficient in the red zone? Are you avoiding silly mistakes and penalties and turnovers? And I think if the Raiders can eliminate all those things, I know Josh and his staff are trying to do that. This is always one of the more penalized teams in the NFL. This is always one of the teams that has shot itself in the foot over and over again. They're trying to mitigate that out, through discipline and accountability. And if they can, because of the talent that they now have, they're going to be able to stand, toe-to-toe with everybody, including every team in their division. So ultimately, it's going to come down to, are they clean in the red zone? Are they avoiding turnovers? Are they avoiding silly mistakes? And if they do, they're going to win their share of games.
Vinny, I have a simple question that might be a more difficult answer, but just your thoughts on Derek Carr and where you think he sort of stands. He's been around a while now and been a little bit up and down. Where do you stand on him?
I've always kind of felt like, and I came from Los Angeles, so I knew of the Raiders and I knew of Derek Carr kind of from afar. So I came here. I'd always wonder, is the quarterback the issue up there? Is that the problem? But it became pretty apparent early on, starting to cover this team in 2019. It's not the quarterback. It wasn't the quarterback's fault. The talent around him has been abysmal. There's been a turnstile at the coach and general manager and on the roster. And through it all, he's kind of stood there, took the hit, never complained, tried to do the best that he could in adverse conditions for the most part. And I think last year showed when he had Henry Ruggs and Darren Waller was healthy, and John Gruden, now before all that debacle, he was playing at an MVP caliber level. It wasn't until the situation with Henry Ruggs and then Darren gets hurt, and then all of a sudden the talent around him evaporated, that they struggled. But when you put good players around him, he's a guy that could get the job done. So I would expect if everybody stays healthy, and we're talking about Darren Waller and Hunter Renfrow and Devontae Adams, Josh Jacobs, everyone that they have in that backfield, if people stay healthy, he's got a chance to, I think, be in that top 10 realm as far as quarterbacks. I don't think it's going to be because his play changed any or he got all of a sudden better overnight. It's because he's a good quarterback who, just like everybody else, Matthew Stafford is a great example, needs other good players around him. He's finally got that, and I think that his play is going to reflect it.
All right, Vinny, before we let you go here, you just mentioned Henry Ruggs. Obviously, there was a whole situation with Gruden last year and the interim coach and all that. The team still made the playoffs, so it's not like it really torpedoed anything. But is any of that stuff sort of still hanging over this team now, or did they all really turn the page, would you say?
I think they've definitely turned the page. And, I thought for them to fight through and get to the playoffs, in spite of everything that was going on, it's something that they sort of set a standard for themselves. Okay, this is possible. And I feel like they've gotten better roster-wise and I think coaching-wise as well and in the front office. So if you put all of those things together, this is not a fresh start, but a continuation from last year and what they feel is an improved continuation. So they're knocking on wood that there's not going to be any other shenanigans or controversy or any of the stuff that they went through last year. And then I think it's really refreshing talking to, as guys like Derek Carr and other of the leaders on this team, that right now it's just strictly been football, not off-field stuff.
All right, we'll leave it right there then. Vinny Bonsignore, thank you very much for the time tonight. Las Vegas Review-Journal, you can find him on Twitter at Vinny Bonsignore. That's Bonsignore. Vinny, thanks so much.
All right, guys, enjoy the game.
All right.
Thanks, Vinny.
We will do, even though you just told us none of the good players are playing in it.
Do you have to do this thing when you say the Bonsignore? You got to give like
Bonsignore.
the little.
Yeah.
So Fred thought he said good guy. Vinny good guy.
Vinny good guy.
I was like, what?
Vinny Bag of Donuts.
I go, yeah, he seems like a good guy. He
Don't
goes,
speak
no,
Italian.
is that his name? Yes, exactly.
That's funny. Well, he didn't give us any Trent Brown. I mean, I guess he kind of the truth was in what was not said.
Oh yeah, I mean,
was that
but
effort?
he came from the Raiders. Like, what do you think he thinks of Trent Brown's work ethic?
Right.
I mean, Trent Brown's best year as a pro by far was 2018, and we all thought he was sort of a lazy, unmotivated
Right. On a one-year deal, kind of playing left tackle, chance
playing
to prove
the
it.
best that he ever played.
Yeah.
He seems like a lazy, unmotivated football player that Dante had to squeeze every ounce of effort out of him. You know, he was on him that whole year, if you recall.
Yeah, now Matt Patricia's got to do it.
And now it looks like. So you want to circle back to that? I mean, where
Circle
are we?
back.
We all right, Matt? We're not up against a break.
No.
We don't really even
Breaks.
we don't even take breaks. I'll do the first Hardy.
Them's the breaks.
I'll do the first Hardy.
Did Hardy
tonight.
fill you in on the no breaks? He's very, very, very emotional about that. The
So-
no breaks here.
Yeah, he told me to just keep talking.
the Trent Brown thing, to me, and I couldn't help but wonder again. Real quick, just to reset it, Reese had mentioned that it seemed like the effort was a problem in the joint practices, and that was why he didn't play. That's why he didn't suit up. In my time covering the Patriots, can't recall too many instances where guys that are fine but weren't expected to play in a preseason game weren't there. If you were injured and you weren't there, that's one thing.
Right.
But Kendrick Bourne and Trent Brown were not there, and they were healthy, which tells you that it's something else. So, Mike sort of pointed to his effort. So I started to wonder, I wonder if he's sort of leaving the reservation. It's hard because, as Vinny said, effort's been a problem with Trent Brown throughout his career. San Francisco, New England, Las Vegas, and now again in New England. Effort has been periodically an issue with this guy. But I'm wondering if maybe the effort is a problem because maybe he's a little upset. And I brought this up to you, Mike.
Yep.
So he signs, Christian, a 2-year deal to come back. He played what last year? Right tackle.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, we go out to spring at OTAs, and he's playing left tackle.
For right tackle money.
Left tackles make more money than right tackles.
Yeah.
And the only thing that I don't know is did Bill, when he sat down with Trent Brown and his agent, did he explain, listen, so we want you to stay. We think we're going to move you to left tackle. This is, in which case he's got no beef.
Right.
Mike Giardi today sort of tweeted this out there. He had a long string in a thread. Is that what you kids call them? Threads, right?
I believe so.
A thread regarding the Patriots summer, and a couple of his bullet points were Trent Brown related, and he said that he was absolutely told. He was absolutely not told. I'm sorry.
I think they told him nothing. They just signed him. They just said, "Here's the
money." They
money."
just signed him. There was no talk of playing left tackle, before he signed. So I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility if, quote unquote, his effort has to do with his paycheck.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. I mean, as Christian brought up, you can't have issue on the offensive line this year. And I think with Trent Brown, he's just so big that it's like he doesn't have to move sometimes. Like if he just gets his hands on guys, especially like Uche, those smaller kind of speed rusher guys, they're done. But it's you can see the feet. But you've said also, Paul, that I know he seems like he's holding his weight together pretty well. And
yeah, well,
does it seem that way?
Well, yeah, he's down. Yeah. I mean, it's relative.
Right.
He's got weight clauses that have been written
pounds,
about for 365, and I, according to a source, I'll throw a source out there.
Okay.
According to a source, he's been doing a good job of meeting those.
Okay. Good for him then.
So, again, it's 365. I'm not trying to tell you that, man, is he really redistributed his weight in his body? Yeah. So it's relative. But I do wonder with stuff like that sometimes if there's something behind, what? I'm not getting paid like a left tackle. They duped me. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know if that has anything to do with this at all. It might just be as Vinny just said, this is a player who's periodically had effort issues.
And
he might just not be motivated in the summer. He's a veteran. He'll be there when the season starts, and we might look at this and say, remember when you guys are questioning his effort? He's been fine. I do sort of look at a couple of things. You guys are all talking about the one-on-ones. He's been pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
He was out there against Chandler Jones. And then when the regular pass rush comes, he's having problems with Chandler Jones. And Mac Jones, on his really good day, Wednesday, was sacked, according to most of the tabulations, 5 times. That's a lot. He threw the ball. I think he was like 22 attempts. So that's like 27 pass attempts. He got sacked 5 times. That's a lot. You don't get sacked 5 times in a game a lot.
It was. I mean, and to clarify, because I was there, I think that the reason the Raiders had a better day the second day was because they scored on the final play. On their last play.
The Patriots, you mean?
Patriots
the Raiders. I'm saying the
Raiders.
The Patriots
scored.
The Raiders scored on
Patriots
their
had a
on the
walk-off
first
touchdown.
day. Yeah, they did. But
I
the
thought
first
the Patriots had a touchdown on their last day with Hunter Henry.
They did.
I thought you said you were a right spider.
You're confusing me. Stop. The first day, the Patriots put it in the end zone and got off the field on the last play. So Tuesday, the Patriots and that was the Patriots were dreadful, but then on the last 2-minute drills for the Raiders, they got off the field, and for the Patriots, they scored. The next day, it looked like they were going to get off the field again when the Raiders were in their 2-minute, but they converted a 4th down to Hunter Renfrow, and then they got a touchdown. So Patriots again, then they countered and went down with Hunter Henry. So, but it was choppy till that point, and
it sounds like Wednesday was much more even.
It was much more
whereas
even.
Tuesday the Raiders had the better of the play.
That's
right?
why. I mean, as much as you want to say, it was a great day for the Patriots, it was fine. It was fine, and it was a nice ending. But it wasn't like, now we're clicking. We're cooking with gas. It was,
And I defer to you, Mike, because obviously I wasn't there. So I trust.
And I was looking through people. That were
no, I know, but I trust you as opposed to some of the people that we sort of mock. By we, I mean me. With the breathless stats of every drop back.
Did you get his training camp completion percentage? You get that one?
Yeah, no, I missed it, But, I do think you can kind of look at the same plays and come away with some things differently. And I think that your point about, you have the nice touchdown to Hunter Henry to end it sort of blurs. And I think it was very similar to the preseason game itself against Carolina, where 3 and out, 2 really bad throws and a sack, 3 and out. Oh, and then we go 10 plays, 81 yards for a touchdown, including an absolutely gorgeous 45-yarder to Aguilar, which was picture perfect on both ends.
Yeah.
Exactly what you want to see. But when you really look at the totality of what they did, they're out there for about 16 plays, and like 4 of them were good. 5 of them were good.
That's exactly it.
So at practice, if you're just going to focus on the bomb that they completed, hey, this is great. But it really wasn't all that great.
And that was the thing was the Raiders' great plays were like Devontae Adams, open, pass on time, has separation, catches it. The Patriots' plays were, you're holding your breath as it's thrown into traffic, and you're like, guys are jumping, and it just, it's almost like that shot from Super Bowl 49 that Amendola had, where it's just like it somehow makes it through 12 sets of hands. That's what the Patriots plays were like. And, it was great that he caught it, but it still doesn't leave you thinking like you've got a guy like Renfrow or Adams who have that ability to just lose a guy, get open, make the play on time, and then get yards after the catch. So we'll see. I mean, we got into it yesterday talking about how much can the game planning element of this save them when they start to lean into what they're good at. They stop trying to do the stuff that they haven't been able to do. I'm sure it'll help somewhat, but, I think to your point, Paul, it hasn't been consistent all summer. There's been each period, there's 1 or 2 plays maybe that look pretty good, but otherwise there's a lot of oof, that was bad.
Should we be concerned that the 2 players who actually played in the Shanahan offense with Shanahan keep getting benched and don't play in the actual game?
I never even thought of it that way, but
it just sort of hit me. I was like, those guys, he's in the Niners too. So was Bourne. Those guys are both on that team.
I think there might be something more behind the scenes that we don't know about with Bourne. I think he knows the
tonnage
offense.
Issue.
Yeah, I think maybe he talked about the changes in offense probably in a way that Belichick didn't want him to start with.
My radar's been up with him since the spring when, even last year at the end of the year, it seems like he likes being out there. And I don't think they like guys that like being out there and in front. And certainly you watch the last week of practice, he's the 4th option out there. He's no longer in that mix.
And just real quick, apropos of nothing, as they say, I did, before the show, I bumped into our German broadcasters, Marcus Kuhn and Sebastian Vollmer. And I said to Vollmer, I said, we being too hard on the offense? He goes, yeah. I go, okay. I mean, he's a large man. I just kind of, but his point, though, like as he kept talking, he did say, he goes, how we kind of always step into the season. I go, but doesn't that change a little when you don't have Tom? And he goes, yeah, that's a good point. He wasn't really thinking of it in those terms.
Yeah. I got a little worked up today because I was on the TikTok. As
Were you on the TikTok?
I did the TikToking. And I caught Ninkovich. Ninkovich does like a podcast now.
Was he finger wagging you?
He was doing the podcast with who's the Dan O'Brien? I think it's him and the car guy. I think they have a podcast.
Okay.
I think that's him.
Yeah, Dan O'Brien Kia.
I think they do
He did it with the McCourties too, right?
Yeah. He's always.
What's that guy up to?
What's
Dan
he's in a
O'Brien up to?
podcast
What's
with
he trying?
Ninkovich
He
now.
trying to take all our jobs here? Like, what are you doing, Dan O'Brien?
He's like, you own a car company. Shouldn't you be making way more money?
Just stay in your lane.
But he was just like, Ninkovich was just like, you see them killing the offense, and I'm like, look, dude, I get you played in the NFL. I've been at every single training camp practice. I've been at every single joint practice. I'm sorry, it looks sporadic at best. Now maybe it'll all of a sudden look amazing, but it's just that kind of like sense of, it'll all be fine.
Well, there's a couple of things that really bug me about that. Because I've covered 20-something camps, and the vast majority of them, Christian, I've come away from camp saying, my God, this offense, it looks unstoppable. Like, the ball never hits the ground. And no one ever finger-wagged me for that.
Weird.
No one ever, said, well, you have to say that. You work for the Patriots. You're sunshine. No one ever said that to me. They said,
Not even Jones? Sounds like something Jones would say.
Tom Brady throwing the ball to Wes Welker or Julian Edelman or Rob Gronkowski or Randy Moss, and the ball's never hitting the ground. Makes sense. So we were sort of forecasting this offense can be special this year. No one made fun of us for making these dramatic conclusions based off of practice. This is the worst I've ever seen the offense look in practice, ever. Going back to 2000 with Drew Bledsoe and David Patton and that crew. Not even David Patton. He wasn't even here the first year, 2000. I mean, it was less than that. So I don't know what else to say other than they struggle in offense.
Can I ask you a question? Do you ever see Brady go off the field like Mac did that one day where it was clearly upset?
No, I've seen Brady. Not like that, but I've seen Brady get upset. I've seen him yell at his linemen when he's not getting the right protection. I've seen him have periods of frustration. I've seen Rodney Harrison and Mike Vrabel chirp at him unlike you'd ever see, and he would get pissed. But again, the level of execution was almost always stellar, and we said so. And again, no one ever criticized us for making these, gross conclusions based off of practice. And this notion, which I'm starting to hear a little of, they started slow, but they're picking it up. Just like in games last year, a lot, down the stretch, and sometimes, they would start slow and then they would pick it up and it wasn't enough and they would lose anyway. No, when you're behind multiple touchdowns and you get a couple, by the way, touchdowns, that's not starting slow and picking it up. That's garbage time touchdowns. Let's call them what they were. And in practice, there is no garbage time. It's all relevant, and for the most part, more often than not, it hasn't been good execution. Right?
Yeah.
So it's not about starting slow and kicking it into gear. They were better Wednesday than they were Tuesday. That's not because they started slow on Tuesday and picked it up on Wednesday. No. They had a better day on Wednesday.
And even after practice, they said, that was a theme going into this second practice was let's start fast. They didn't start fast. They finished well again, but same kind of thing. And last year,
I heard a little of that this morning, and it really kind of bugged me. I was like, I didn't see the Vegas practices, to be fair, so I'm not talking about those. But they haven't started slow and picked it up in practice. That hasn't been the case.
All right, the phone number to call in is 855-PATS-500. We got a call on the line. Moises is in Connecticut. What's up, Moises?
How's it going, guys? It's been a while.
Hey.
Where you been, man?
I just want to say I'm doing good. I'm doing good. After tonight's game, who's going to be the surprise cut out of the 53-man roster?
Surprise. Okay, I don't know if I have a real surprise, but how about a veteran that I think Mike and I will agree on? I think Henry Anderson's in trouble.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought he was last year, too. I mean, it's been a similar kind of – I really haven't really
and I
seen
think
him
this
do
year
much.
he got a huge opportunity when Wise missed a handful of practices.
Yeah, we've seen some of Barmore too playing.
Yeah,
in that
I
spot.
think
But
I
he could
don't
get
think
pushed
that
off
would
by
be
LeBrian Ray.
I don't
or,
think that would
Henry.
be a surprise cut because I think a lot of people see it coming. But I think that's a veteran that could go.
I mean, maybe this will sound stupid, but I'm having trouble finding a surprise cut because I don't really see the depth to like make that move. And so you could say Henry Anderson because you have some questions with, Sam Roberts, LeBrian Ray, those kind of backup guys that maybe you could make a move to, similar to what you were talking about earlier. But you're not going to cut any of your offensive linemen. I don't think you're going to cut any of your running backs. Your wide receivers we talked about. You have 4 that are kind of stationed. I don't see the depth
Tight ends,
to make
it's
those
too
cuts.
big a cap hit to cut any of those guys.
You got 2 guys there. I mean, Asiasi, is that a
Right,
surprise?
Asiasi is-
Evan talked to Asiasi's dad in Vegas. Asiasi's dad came up to him and he said Asiasi is well aware of how firmly he is on the bubble right now.
Oh,
so,
okay.
So I there's not a lot of depth. I mean, you could say look at the safety position and say they got a lot of guys there. Maybe there's a surprise cut in there, but I'm not sure who.
But
it would be.
I can't imagine it will be any of those 4.
Nick Folk.
Right. I mean, and that's
Who's the other kid? Vizcaino?
Vizcaino, yeah. Which I mean, they still got 2 of them, so I haven't completely ruled that out yet. I mean, I feel like that's like, would you keep 2 if it wasn't actually somewhat of a competition down to this point? I've always said with Nick Folk, you got an old guy, and you want to have a little insurance there, and
I think that's what it is.
But we'll see next week.
All right. 855-PATS-500 is the phone number. If you want to send an email, you can do it at webradio@patriots.com. Are we due for a break now, or can we keep going? All right, let's take a quick break here. When we come back, we'll do our over-unders. I have some questions for the guys about the newness of this roster, and we'll continue with your phone calls and your emails, all here on Patriots Pregame, presented by Dunkin.
Patriot Place is the region's #1 shopping, dining, and entertainment destination. Shop your favorites, including Vineyard Vines, Express, Olympia Sports, Petco, and more. Enjoy dining at one of our 19 restaurants, including 6 String Grill and Stage, Scorpion Bar, and Bar Louie. And don't forget about the entertainment. Explore your inner artist at Muse Paint Bar, watch a movie at Showcase Cinema Deluxe, or grab a controller and start gaming at Helix Esports. For a complete directory listing, please visit patriot-place.com.
In sports, if you think joy only happens after you win, think again. Look at the world's most successful athletes like Serena Williams, Brooks Koepka, and Alex Morgan. They don't spend all their days grinding away. They take time to enjoy themselves, like getting together with friends over a Michelob Ultra, because they know that happiness is the key to winning, and that joy is the whole game, not just the end game. Michelob Ultra. 95 calories, 2.6 grams of carbs. It's only worth it if you enjoy it. Enjoy responsibly. AB Michelob Ultra Light Beer, St. Louis, Missouri.
There's no season better than football season. And there's no better place to get in on all of the action than with DraftKings, the official daily fantasy sports partner of the New England Patriots. To add to the thrill, DraftKings has millions of dollars in prizes up for grabs every week. So head to the app now and check it out. If you haven't tried it yet, fantasy football is easy to play. Just pick 9 players, stay under the salary cap, and pile up points for yards, touchdowns, receptions, and so much more. There's no better way to put your football knowledge to the test than to compete for a shot at $1 million in total prizes. Download the DraftKings app now and use promo code PATS to get a shot at millions of dollars in total prizes every week. That's promo code PATS to get a shot at millions of dollars in total prizes every week, only at DraftKings. Eligibility restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com for details.
Some people are never content with simply being good. Not when they can be great. But it takes a big step to get there. In fact, it takes a leap of faith, a belief in what you're striving toward, and a willingness to make the commitment, day in and day out, to something bigger than yourself. Putnam is proud to partner with those who share their own commitment to performance excellence. This is Matt Light for Putnam Investments, a world of investing.
Join the conversation by calling the Ace Ticket hotline at 855-PATS-500 or email the show at webradio@patriots.com.
Tell him I will be there, period. Sorry, comma.
Live from our studios inside Gillette Stadium, here's Hardy.
No Hardy today. Sorry, everybody. Sorry, ladies.
Sorry, ladies.
I know that's devastating news for the ladies out there. But, yeah, it's me, Arcand, in for Hardy, here with Mike Dussault and Paul Perillo. I want to say thanks again to Vinny Bonsignore for joining us in the previous segment there. Always good to talk with him. We'll get to the over-unders here in just a minute. I'm looking at this, and, Paul, you're killing it on over-unders.
Yeah,
I mean, absolutely killing it.
I don't know how that – is that right?
11-1? You've gotten what? How many have you done?
It's been known to be wrong.
Just the two, right?
Yeah.
So, wow, that's still pretty good.
I missed one.
Upset about the one you missed.
It's unacceptable.
Very good. I wanted to, before we get to this, just sort of float this theory I had by you guys. And before we do that, I just want to tell everybody that Bridgestone, the official tire of the New England Patriots, is proud to partner with Sullivan Tire, New England's headquarters for quality Bridgestone tires. Visit sullivantire.com and find a location near you. It's Patriots Pregame presented by Dunkin. All right, here's my question. There's been talk and question, certainly where I work, there's been a lot of it, about the buy-in of this team. And I think a lot of that carries over from the Week 2 fights and everything and sort of the you guys know what I'm going to say here. But my theory is that this roster's so new, and the important players on this roster are so new. The quarterback is a second-year player. Most of your important position players, with a couple of exceptions, were picked up in free agency last year and this year. And, even on the defensive side, you really only have about a handful of guys who even played with Tom Brady. Is that something that is having an impact on not just, the lack of coordinators that are here, but everything, I mean, Bill Belichick has always had his guys. He's got about 8 guys left that were even on the team in 2019.
Yeah, I think it's a good question. I think it's the dynamics of the team, and, guys like Slater, McCourty, do their, presence still ring the same way it used to? And you're right. Like, that's why it's like during camp, I like David Andrews kind of stepping up, another younger guy who's here for a little while and still is going to be here. Mac has to step up as well. But I think that's a great question, and I think that's something that probably will have to be figured out this season, where new players have to step up. As a guy like, say, Anthony Jennings, who's had a really good camp, is he, a playmaker and somebody that's going to start? I think that's the biggest thing for me is you need some new playmakers to step up. And you saw last year with Judon kind of do it, not to, he kind of became a leader. So I think they need an influx of kind of a young leader, a young, solid playmaker to build around and, to just carry on that energy, because I think you're right. At a certain point, you're not going to have Slater and McCourty to say, well, when we did it this way, we won Super Bowls. Right. It's not as easy to say that anymore as you get farther and farther away from 2018.
Yeah, I do think there is, buy-in, I don't know if that's the right phrase, but I do think there's some questions in terms of the offense and like the system. And was it the right time? Was it the right, the right switch? And did they have enough of the personnel to do it? But yeah, I agree with what Mike said wholeheartedly. I think the most important thing that this team can do over the next couple of years is find a core of 26, 27-year-old guys that will be part of the future that you want to give a second contract to. And Anthony Jennings looks like a candidate that he's making a rise. Mm-hmm. Can Josh Uche be sort of stop teasing everybody in the media? And actually do something, when the games come, and sort of, turn himself into a productive sub-pass rusher. I think that might be something that he could do.
Neither one of you guys mentioned Christian Barmore.
Barmore is a stud.
He's a stud already.
I think he's terrific. And Mike will tell you, I had a crush on him all last year. And now, everybody's.
I would only counter by saying that you can be a stud and not necessarily be one of Bill's guys. Yeah. Right? Like, there's been other guys who were studs and Bill let them walk right out the door.
I think that's a fear.
Absolutely. And no offense to Christian Barmore, but I don't know. I don't really see him as like a leadership kind of guy. Like, he just seems like a crazy player.
No, that's a good point, too, because I'm giving you examples of young players. I don't know, like, their personality. Here's the thing, too, is because of the circumstances of the last couple of years, we're working on guys that have been here 2 and 3 years that we really don't even know. I couldn't tell you if Kyle Duggar is a leader in the making, or Josh Uche.
I think Bentley should be in this conversation probably.
Bentley's got leadership
qualities.
He's got. There's no doubt about that.
He was a
three-time captain at Purdue.
Purdue. I was thinking Notre Dame.
I'm sick and tired of getting my.
But I think it's right. And ultimately, I think it just boils down to they need new playmakers. They need new guys to start stepping up, and I think Mac carries a huge part of that mantle.
All right, the phone number is 855-PATS-500. If you'd like to chime in, let's go to the phones. Go up to our neighbors to the north up in Canada. Tony is in Canada. Tony, where in Canada?
Well, I'm in Edmonton. Alberta.
Edmonton. I'm sure everybody here knows this is my first time, so I like to know where everyone's from. What's on your mind tonight, Tony?
Well, last week, actually, I called in and asked the question about it. If the guys would be more surprised whether the Patriots won 10 or more games or lost 10 or more. And my opinion is I'd be more surprised if they'd win 10 or more games. I'm expecting their record to be somewhere around 7-10. And I'll tell you why is that of all the things, there's 2 or 3 things, but the one that concerns me the most is our secondary. And that Jalen Mills is our number 1 cornerback, and he's going to be going up against prime receivers. I don't think that the Patriots are going to be able to lock down those receivers. I think we're going to struggle. I know I hear that we're going to be playing we're not going to be playing as much man-to-man, but my greatest fear is what happened in the playoffs last year, how Buffalo just torched us. They lit us up. And I have, like, recurring dreams, nightmares, that's going to be kind of like the theme going through this year, throughout the year. I wonder what the guys think about that.
All right, thanks for the call, Tony.
I worry about the secondary.
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, I think Jalen Mills had a good summer, but it's a whole other thing going against these other guys. As far as the Buffalo game, it wasn't the second game; it was everything. I'm like secondary.
Nothing
I don't know. You had no answers in the front.
Secondary was a big part of it, but in fairness, Jalen Mills didn't play in that.
Right,
game.
that's too. True. But I still think if the front,
if only.
No, I mean obviously I'm not.
If they had Jalen Mills, I tell you.
And you know what, Christian?
Might have punted once.
In all seriousness, thank you, because I know someone would have said, "Well, Perillo thinks they would have won, because Jalen Mills didn't play." Yeah, no, and maybe it would have been 41 to 15 instead, or whatever the final score was.
Yeah, but I do think that I have some hope. The defensive front, they've been good this summer. Barmore, Uche, Judon, Anthony Jennings. I think if those guys can be impactful, then it can cover up some of the mistakes of the secondary and some of the deficiencies there, but not all of them. They're going to have to play better.
Yeah, what I do like on paper, at least, and we'll see if it translates, is I do think that Bill sort of listens to the quote-unquote narrative and thought that they were slow. And he made an effort to try to increase the team's overall speed.
Although, Tavai, we talked about this Tavai Mac Wilson.
Yeah,
thing, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think Mac Wilson is an every down player, but I think he profiles to what we're talking about. I think Uche profiles to what we're talking about. I think Anthony Jennings, to a lesser extent, profiles to that.
Yeah.
His willingness to add. Despite having already 3 solid safeties, his willingness to add a guy like Peppers. I think that's another guy that can be a hybrid player and use some speed as opposed to, let's just trot out Kyle Van Noy and Dante Hightower, who were great players and made a lot of great plays for this team. I don't think last year they were great anymore.
Yeah.
I don't think they were great anymore. I think it was time.
Yeah, they weren't great anymore. I'd say I was just about to sort of counter what the caller said and say that, the corners are a problem, but I like the safeties on this team. I think it's probably their best position group on either side of the ball,
it's
right?
Certainly, it's certainly in a small conversation. Can you give us an answer to that question, Christian? The way that Tony phrased it last week was, would you be more surprised if they won 10 games or if they lost 10 games?
I think I'd be more surprised if they won 10 games. I'd be more surprised if they won because I have all
3 of us had a really hard time.
7 or 8.
Yeah, we all kind of have them in the middle there.
I mean,
we
Vegas
had a really hard time.
Right? Isn't that the over/under?
Right.
Vegas 8.5. So I mean,
that's where it is. 7, 8, 9, 10. I mean, I feel pretty good. They're in that range.
Like I can make an argument that they go 10-7.
I'm not expecting. Them
I
to
can.
lose 10
I work
games,
for Patriots.com, damn it, and I can make an argument that they go 10-7.
All right.
I just won't have as much conviction behind that argument as I would if you asked me if they're going to go, say, 8-9.
Makes sense. All right, let's go down to Kentucky and talk to Owen. Owen is in Kentucky. What's up, Owen?
Hey, how's it going?
How you doing,
Owen?
Yeah, has a 13-year-old ever called before, or is that just me?
No, we've had some kids in here, yeah, for sure.
We take all kinds.
Yeah,
everybody likes to yell at me. Go ahead, Owen.
So my question is for Ramondre Stevenson, could he have a breakout year for this year?
I think he could.
Yeah, I think he could too.
You saw last year, his highlights were pretty good.
Yeah, he's a unique combination of size and kind of speed. I haven't seen a lot of it this summer though, and that's been part of the disappointment of the offense. And everybody wants to talk about the passing game and Mac and not really clicking all the time. I haven't really seen anything from the run game all summer.
No, it has been stuck in neutral the entirety of the summer. I will say, Owen, I think he's going to get a chance to play on all 3 downs. And I think if you're looking to get, maybe a late running back, he might be a guy to take a flyer on.
Oh, fantasy? We're talking fantasy?
Yeah, I assume a 13-year-old calling up and asking about Ramondre Stevenson might have a little fantasy impact and play there.
I'd imagine. I don't know if any Patriots are great fantasy options this year.
No, they're not, and it's hard because like Damian Harris had 15 touchdowns last year.
Yeah, right.
Right? But in about 100 fewer, I think about 70 fewer touches, Ramondre Stevenson had 5. So, maybe if that's more of a split, maybe those maybe it's closer to 10 and 10 as opposed to 15 and 5.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's certainly possible. And Stevenson really looked promising last year. There was some really nice sequences by him catching the ball between the tackles. He seemed like he was on track to become something else. And Damian Harris wasn't starting right away. You didn't see him his first year. Right? It was when it was Sony Michel.
So he had a hamstring problem early in his rookie year. But he didn't get he got the red shirt that a lot of running backs get.
But Stevenson didn't, is my point.
Not the red ass, the red shirt.
I get those mixed up sometimes.
Okay.
Yeah, but Stevenson, my point, I guess, is that Stevenson did not get that. He was out there playing
until he fumbled opening day and got banished for like the next 5 weeks.
And I love bringing up his preseason long touchdown run, which
which was how many yards was that,
Mike? It was like 98.
No, it's like 80.
92, somewhere in there. But
82.
I think that's the thing. Like going into the season, like the first possession of the season against Miami, I just want to see an actual run game where they get tackled. And if all of a sudden it's whoa, Ramondre Stevenson, they're opening up creases for him, they got a little bit of run game, then it feels like all right, maybe this offense does have a gear that we haven't quite seen yet. But I as much as you haven't seen any consistency from the passing game, there have been almost a complete lack of any explosive plays. Even watching Hard Knocks last night, I'm like, geez, the Lions are at least able to open up some holes and their guys go. I mean, certainly J.J. Taylor, they've had some stuff against mop-up time. But, Damian Harris, Ramondre hasn't been a lot.
You took a red eye home. Came in here on absolute fumes to the point where you mumbled an F-bomb under your breath.
That's questionable.
And still refused to admit that you did it. Yet you went home and watched Hard Knocks?
No, that was today. That was after my 12 hours of sleep. I was on the couch, and I'm a Dan Campbell fan. What do you want me to say?
I would bleed for you guys.
It was great, though. In this episode, they had a comedian come in, and they just kind of did a 5-minute little set and was just making fun of Dan Campbell the whole time. It was good. It was good.
We're going to set up, and on the way up, we're going to bite a kneecap off.
855-PATS-500, that is your phone number to call in. Let's go to Darrell in New Hampshire. Hey, Darrell.
So I was just calling in. I was just asking, do you think Jacoby Myers is going to be our number one option this year?
Probably in the gotta-have-it moments, it seems like it. It sure seems like Mac in practice is going to him a lot. He has a knack for knowing where to be. And I think
so reliable.
What we saw from him in Vegas was just the ability to go up and get the ball. And I think that as a slot receiver, he does have a little bit of plus size that some of those smaller, quick guys don't have. So I think he's learning to use that. I think he's a reliable option, and I think I don't think he'll lead number one, but
I think he'll lead the team in receptions. Yeah. I don't know if that makes you by definition the number one, but like last year, I think he led the team in receptions by far. But I don't know. I mean, you could make an argument that Bourne made more big plays, and Henry was the bigger red zone guy.
I sure think third downs were Jacoby last year. But, I mean, contract year, he needs a big year. He's earning a contract for next season. So, and I mean, Mac talking about him out in Vegas saying, I hope we get to play with him forever.
Right.
And, been one of his best friends since he's gotten here.
Is it fair to characterize Jacoby Myers as Mac's safety valve? I mean, is that what we call him? I don't know. Does he even have one? When James White retired, that kind of bummed me out because I thought, man, that's a guy that Mac could really use, a big screen passer, that sort of thing.
For sure. And
I think you'll see a lot of Ty Montgomery in that regard, Christian.
Yeah.
I think they used him a lot in training camp.
That's the guy. That's the guy. And I talk about the run game not really looking all that hot. The only time I saw glimpses of it were with Ty Montgomery, and we wondered if because he has had experience with the wide zone stuff, if he's a little bit more comfortable with what they're asking him to do right now. But I think he's gonna be heavily involved.
And I also wonder, with Montgomery, to the coaches, and the coaches have talked about wanting to be less predictable. And I think that's an example of it. I think when James White's on the field, they think they're going to throw. Yeah. I think when Ty Montgomery's on the field, they think they're going to throw. Mm-hmm. And I think that does run. And I think they can run with him.
Yep.
And he might be more suited to run the ball than James was.
Yep. All right, we'll pause the phone calls here for just a second. 855-PATS-500 is the number. The email address is webradio@patriots.com. But since Mr. Important Paulie Perillo over here has to go do TV.
Not for a while.
We are going to, I was told to do this early. We're going to get started right now with our over-unders.
It's time for this week's edition of Over-Unders.
You're over me? When were you under me?
All right. Last week, Mike 4-2, Paul 6-0, and Hardy, who's not here, 4-2, bringing the season totals for the preseason to Mike 7-5, Hardy 8-4, Paul 11-1.
So do our cans count as Hardys, or are we gonna have separate stats?
Paul actually has Hardys.
Hardy weighed in.
Oh, he did.
Oh.
All right, good. All right, well, we'll have to see. I guess I get to go first. Is
Christian,
that
if you would like to participate, we will take a special.
I
column
love
for you.
participating.
I actually have an A column on my page for Christian. So
Okay, there you go. All right, so am I doing this or
Nope,
are you doing this?
I'll read them
all
out.
right, go ahead.
Mac Jones passing touchdowns at a half. Go ahead, Mike.
And we rotate too. So yeah.
It goes Mike, me, then you.
Okay, I can follow.
And then you, him, me.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna go under on the Mac. I don't think he's gonna play. Maybe but a series. And based on how things have gone, I'm gonna say under.
I'm going to agree with Mike, and it's based on playing time, not because I don't think Matt can throw a touchdown pass. I don't think he's going to play enough.
I'm going to say over, just to be different from you guys. I don't necessarily believe it, but I do think that
that's a
there's
very
chance.
Hardy-like answer.
Right down the field.
Is that what he does?
And Hardy said over.
Hardy also said over.
Yes, he
over
did.
1/2 of a touchdown. I mean, listen, I think there's a chance he leads him on a touchdown drive. I think this is going to mean something to Bill to score on Josh with the starters. But then again, you're right, they might not even play. All right, next.
Jacoby Myers receptions at 3.5.
I'm going to go under this one since I get to go first. I don't know how much he's going to play, but I would imagine that they're going to get some of the the Trey Nixons of the world and those guys out there for a lot of these reps. And I think Myers is probably going to be like most of the starters watching from the sidelines.
I am going to say under for Myers. It's a playing time thing. I just don't see them out there enough.
Yeah, I'm under 2.
Okay. Hardy is over.
Patriots field goals 1.5.
Okay, that's me. I am going to say over. I think they kicked 2 field goals tonight, and I'm going to go on the limb and say Folk gets 1 and Vizcaino gets 1.
Wow.
I like it. I'm just going to roll the dice on this one.
Prop bet there.
I got to catch up to Mr. 11-1, so I'm going to go under.
What did you say on Myers' receptions?
Under.
I'm going to go over on field goals, too. I think it's likely that they're going to be kicking more field goals and scoring touchdowns here. I just have a feeling that's where the offense is going to lead them. All right, even though we heard from Vinny Bonsignore about this one, what do we got next here, Matt?
Hardy went over on the last one.
Okay.
He did. Yes, he did.
Devontae Adams receiving yards, 50.5.
I mean, based on what I saw, he could not even play and probably go over 50.5. But I'm gonna go under on that one.
Hardy goes under as well, and again, my broken record will continue. I just don't think he'll play enough. Under.
Yeah, I mean, Vinny basically said they're not playing at all. The Carr's not going to play. Renfro's not playing. None of those guys are playing. That sucks. I would love to see Adams out there running around doing his thing. He's so good. He's my favorite player to watch.
There's 7, Paul. 7.
But I'll go under there too.
Fred texted me about 10 minutes ago asking how many donuts Paul has eaten, which brings us to our next one. Number of donuts left when show ends, 5.5.
Hardy's not here, and he's always good to cut one up in half, which would have
In
complicated
full disclosure, there are 7 currently available. I had 1.
I'm probably going to have one. I'm already planning on having one.
Marine Corps.
I had 2.
All right. Just wanted to get that out
Don't
there.
forget the wild card in the back room.
So I am going to say under.
I also
5.5.
exercised for 40 minutes today.
Yeah, I'm going to go under
that means
2.
2 more donuts get eaten, and we get the win.
At least, yeah. I'm going to go under. I think I'm going to have at least 2 myself.
I'm hammering the under. I might beat it myself as well. So yeah, there we go. I think this is the easiest
That's one you can control.
It absolutely is. All right, there we go. Mac Jones passing touchdowns, Jacoby Myers receptions, Pat's field goals, Devontae Adams receiving yards, and the number of donuts left when the show ends. Paulie Paul is just on a total heater right now at 11-1 and 6-0 last week.
Hold on,
I'm trying
Christian,
to
we
just
got
get
one
on the
more.
board.
We got one more, guy.
Oh, we do?
Ending as we always do with the total score of 36.5.
I don't know who goes first.
Oh, I saw that and I was like, oh, total score. That's like everyone's
like you're going to
total
add it up,
scores
you
from
tally
the
up your...
the total score of the game, jackass.
We got to get him in regular season mode.
Hey, it's the preseason for all of us.
Right.
I don't know if it's my turn to go first, but I'm just going to go over on this one and try to root for some points today.
I'm going to go over as well. I think I don't think there'll be that period that we had in each of the first 2 games where it's like frontline guys against backups that are overwhelmed.
Yeah.
So there's no way they can score. Only one team had a chance to score. I think tonight it'll be a lot of guys battling to try to make the roster, and it should be competitive. I'm going to take the over.
Over 36.5. I'll go, I guess, under. I don't know. I could see this being a lame, low-scoring game, especially if the starters are really out for a long time.
Yep.
Although, I'd be very interested in seeing what Jarrett Stidham does out there. Jarrett Stidham against his old team might be trying to run up the score a little bit. You could see something there, maybe a little extra something there. But I'll take the under anyway because I think Jarrett Stidham sucks. So even if he does try and play the game of his life, I don't think they're going to score that many points.
Yeah. You should have seen the drop off out there when it was like Carr in the first office, then they put Stidham in, and it was like, that still looked a little.
I would
suspect.
imagine. All right, there you go. Now we can wrap up the segment as total score was actually one of the categories and not what we're supposed to add up at the end, which I probably should have figured that out.
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm wasting this heater because none of these count.
Right.
For the regular.
Do we hit the reset?
Do we hit the reset?
Oh yeah, we'll hit the reset.
All right, good.
Okay.
We'll hit the reset.
Good.
Plus, I think you went 5-1 last week. You and Hardy, I think, went 5-1.
I love that there's always
Math was not wrong.
There's always just a slight possibility that they aren't right. It's part of the charm of the show, Matt. I mean, come on.
Yeah,
it is.
Yeah, definitely. All right, well, there you go. Those are your over-unders here as we get ready for preseason week 3. It's Patriots pregame presented by Dunkin. Arcan in for Hardy, and we got Paul Perillo here for just a few more minutes. Should we take a couple more calls or anything else you want to get off your chest?
No, you got time for calls.
All right, let's do it. Let's go to Eddie. He's in Florida. He's got something to say. Go ahead, Eddie. Eddie. Fast Eddie. All right, Eddie, not ready.
So fast. Is that my dad? No.
Not ready, Eddie. All right, let's try Dustin in Ontario. Go ahead, Dustin.
Hey, fellas. How are you doing today? Having a good day?
How you doing, Dustin?
Doing pretty good. Thanks,
It's a
Dustin.
long one.
Good. I had a question in regards to the Thornton injury. It's been known in the past that, like, when rookies in particular miss an extended period of time in a Belichick system due to injury or other reasons, it can sometimes jeopardize their position as a permanent fixture in the offense. I was wondering if that's going to be, unfortunately, the same case with Thornton. I was really bummed out to hear about his injury, and I'm kind of hoping he'll still be a permanent fixture in the offense moving forward.
Yeah, I think he has to be. I think he has to be. He just, I mean, not to say, it looks like he got it right from the get-go, but he just is a different level athlete than one of the guys that they have right now. And I can't imagine that this injury is, as much as it's going to hurt him. I think what he was showing when he got here was enough for me to think that he'll be able to come back and contribute this year, in a significant way. I hope, because they're different with him on the field. I think he is a guy that has that. What you saw from Devontae Adams and Hunter Renfrow out there, that ability to shake loose and get free. I think he needs to learn how to play the NFL game. And I think why he got hurt was, just trying to push it a little bit. And, you got to know when to fight and when to get down and
I've
save
really
yourself.
liked his camp, first and foremost. And I don't want to get bogged down with semantics, but like rookies have gotten permanent. Like, it's not permanent. Rookies have short-circuited their rookie seasons with injuries. It's happened a lot. But that doesn't mean that they're never to be heard from. If you're asking me, do I now think he'll be a big part of 2022? My answer is probably no. Because now he's going to miss 6 to 8 weeks, maybe 10 weeks. And by the time he gets back on the field, it's going to take him a couple of weeks to get up to speed. Now you're probably going to need some injuries at that spot to get him to where the other guys are in the offense. It's just, it's kind of common sense.
Can he bulk up? Like, I know that's like a weird question, but he was at a
talked
D1
about it.
school. Can he get bigger? Like,
he's talked about it, and I think that he's tried, and the frame is not big. I don't know how much. He kind of talk about he's kind of maxed out in terms of his weight.
Chet Holmgren's bigger than him.
Yeah, he's really he's a slight fella, as they say.
I would
well,
just put
then
him,
how can you rely on him to be part of the offense going forward?
I just think the coaches
It's
have
a
to
concern.
be, and the way that they were using him too, sending him into the line to block and stuff. I think you really got to think about that stuff with him.
A lot of
keep
shallow
him on the
crossers
outside
in
and
early part of camp.
running him through linebackers and stuff. Like it was. I mean, it was even before he got hurt. It was like, guys, we don't need to send him in, as the lead blocker at the point of attack.
But I think, like I said, I led off with it. I was really impressed with his camp, and I would be surprised if he doesn't show that, in regular season action when he's healthy. I don't think he'll be a big part of things this year because of the injury. Will be too big of a setback. But I by no means do I mean that writes him off for his career.
Well, put him in the context too of Myers is a free agent, Aguilar's a free agent.
Well, that's what he. That's why they went early with a wide receiver.
You need somebody in there, and and it's like you wonder if they're playing well, and then he comes back, and they're like, well, we're playing well, we don't really need him, or are they not playing so well? He comes back, and they say, all right, this is kind of a boost we need. Let's get him in there and get him involved so we can try to get back on track.
All right, let's go to Matthew in Texas at 855-PATS-500. Go ahead, Matthew.
See, Hardy.
Good job, Hardy.
All right. Was that my fault?
No, but
no?
but
Okay.
No,
when
but
Hardy does
we
it,
blame
we
it on
blame
Hardy.
it on Hardy.
Oh, well, that makes sense.
And when Fred does it on Tuesdays, we blame it on Hardy.
Gotcha. All right, let's go to
gremlin.
Colleen, who is also in Texas. Hi, Colleen.
Hey, guys.
Hey.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So I'm curious about the rookie running backs. Pierre Strong and Kevin Harris haven't shown much to me via reports or practices. What do you think?
Yeah, you're totally right. I mean, we talked about it a little bit earlier. It's tonight. I think they're going to get a chance, but we just haven't seen much out of them. There've been like little moments here.
Little out of Harris.
Little out of Harris.
Almost
really nothing
nothing
out of Strong.
out of
Nothing
Strong.
out of Strong. Although I will say in Vegas last week there was one moment, and I was like, Paul would laugh at me for this. It was like not even like an anything drill, but he like got the ball, and it's like, hey, you look kind of fast right there. Like just for a second.
Andy Hart used to cut guys off of less than that.
Yeah. So I think it's a great point. I think they could certainly need one of those guys this season if injuries strike, for as much as I think the top three guys, which includes Montgomery, are good. But I'd love to see a little something out of those guys to give you some hope. I assume you're going to see plenty of J.J. Taylor tonight, who will do what he always does in the final preseason game and look like a superstar of the preseason. But would love to see Pierre Strong to bust a run, or for Harris to truck somebody or something. It just gives you a little bit of a sense of what they would be in a pro style
Is there
offense.
a chance that J.J. Taylor stays? I think we all sort of have him going. Is there a chance that he stays?
I would.
I mean, he had a little flash in the preseason game.
I mean,
last week.
I probably like him more than most, just because I feel like things tend to happen when he plays, and I feel like the only thing that's derailed him has been his ball security, and now that might be the final ding against him. I think it's continued this summer, if I remember correctly. Did he put a ball on the ground in one of those practices?
I think he did in practice, but I just think he's too small. I don't think he's dynamic enough to overcome the lack of size. He's not Darren Sproles.
I was just going to say Darren Sproles.
He's not that electric.
I know you guys have talked about this, I'm sure, ad nauseum, but just humor me for a second. What'd you think of those draft picks, those two running backs? What'd you think of those picks?
I thought the double dip was odd.
Right?
Yeah, I did too. I mean, I saw the need for it because I think Harris is probably gone, and you didn't really know what you had with Montgomery, and even at that point, you were kind of like, what do we have with James White? I wouldn't have minded the double dip as much as if I felt that one of them could be a third down back and had some receiving qualities to him. It feels like they're both early down backs with different skill sets. Pierre Strong, I think, is a breakaway speed back kind of a guy, and Harris is kind of a power guy. So it was a little bit of a bump, but I'm still. Again,
I think
curious.
Harris has a chance to contribute as a secondary option between the tackles. Like I could see you, it's the fourth quarter of a game that you're up 2 scores and you're milking the clock, and maybe Harris isn't available or Stevenson isn't available, and maybe you find a way. That's a remote.
There's
possibility.
An email that is in the same vein saying, hello, fake Hardy, Paul, and Mike. It seems like you ignore J.J. Taylor when talking about the running backs. Am I crazy for thinking he's good?
Yeah.
I don't think you're crazy to think he's good. You might be crazy to think he's making the team, though.
Yeah.
I don't think he's bad.
Right.
I'm not telling you he's without talent. I just don't think there's anything overly special there. I think he's okay.
No, he's a great I mean, these are the kind of players I think that we always struggle with as fans, is the guys who light it up in preseason, but ultimately, at the end of the day, they're just not reliable everyday NFL players. Yeah. But I could see him coming back on the practice squad, or keeping him around because
I could see a guy like Harris.
He has some ability.
I could see a guy like Kevin Harris, a 6th round pick. Mm-hmm. Right, so not like a high pick. I could see them cutting him and putting him on the practice squad and keeping J.J. Taylor.
Yep. All right, let's go to
I could see that happening.
Carson in Kentucky at 855-PATS-500. Carson, you're on the air.
Do you think Mac will ever win them a Super Bowl?
I love this.
Great call.
I love. You know what?
Yes,
Paul. You sit there and you talk for a half hour and you never get to a point. That caller just got to a point.
Right, didn't cut right through the crap.
Deuce.
Just boom.
Absolutely. No, I mean,
I don't know.
It's an uphill climb right now. I would say right now, probably not. I think they need to find some star players.
I would say Mac Jones is like the vast majority of quarterbacks in the league right now to me, in that if you have things around him, like good protection, solid running game, and a pretty good defense, He absolutely can win.
He
you
could
a
Joe
Super Bowl.
Flacco you to a Super Bowl. Sure,
He can
why not?
absolutely
Yeah.
win you a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
But I think that is true of 20, 22
Yeah.
maybe guys.
It's a good way to put it.
I think there's maybe 8 or 10 that don't need all of those things that could win the Super Bowl.
All right, and before
like Patrick Mahomes.
Before you go here, Paul, I've been completely ignoring the emails. We got a lot of emails, including this one from Gabriel. And Gabriel says, "Hey guys, curious what you think about the starters' lack of playing this preseason. I remember seeing the starters play the third game of the preseason when Brady and the crew would come to Carolina. I'm worried we've not played the starters enough to get them ready together. Thanks, Gabriel."
I think we've recalibrated now. I think the old way of thinking of the preseason is different, and when you have 2 different weeks of joint practices, that they look at that as a controlled environment where they can bang out rep after rep after rep of exactly what they need, instead of going into the preseason game and kind of rolling the dice, seeing what you get, seeing if somebody gets injured, those kind of things. So it'd be a good question for Bill Belichick outside of just how have you recalibrated after 2 years of these just 3 practices and multiple joint practices. But I just don't think it's going to make a difference. And I mean, I got to admit, earlier in the year I probably would have been on the fence. But are you going to feel better if they go out there against the backups against the Raiders and put together a drive? Maybe, but it doesn't really mean much.
Right, and I do wonder if they've got enough time just to get some cohesion. But yeah, I mean, I don't think it matters because we're not going to see it. I don't think we're going to see a tremendous amount of them tonight.
I think it's a Brian Hoyer start.
And it is, according to the Twitter machine, in our own Evan Lazar, they're out. Mack is out there. He's throwing to Aguilar and Bourne and Myers and
so maybe
and Henry and those guys. So maybe they'll start it, get a series or two. Would they get 3 series last week? And it was really, it was a 3 and out, 3 and out.
And then
to call it 3 series is they played 15 plays,
plays.
16 plays.
Yeah.
I could see that again.
All right, Paul, do you have to leave? Do you have to leave us?
No.
No? Oh, I thought you had to leave right now.
Trying to get ready.
You had to leave at 7 o'clock.
Listen,
7:15?
you go now.
Excuse me. Excuse me.
This is my show.
I didn't want to.
I want to.
I didn't want to kick you out. I just didn't want to keep you here
I
and
actually
ask you a
have to
question.
go and do something for your station.
Have you start doing that? Really?
Which Fred calls my station.
The flagship. Well, it's one of your shows. Anything that's on the radio is one of Paul's.
I know it's not with my show.
No, it's the pregame.
Whenever there's a game, that you don't hear from me. So unless they pop me into another day part.
So I did hear a great caller on your show today, Christian,
Mm-hmm.
when you were on with Hardy and Teddy J.
We talked about Avatar the whole day.
Oh yeah, well that was funny because I enjoyed that. Yeah, Ted Johnson abnormally fixated on Avatar.
Really, really likes that movie. Says he's watched it more than any other movie.
I've never even seen it.
So he's the
Avatar.
one.
He's
He's
the
the reason why they're making sequels, because I could not
Yeah.
care less about a sequel to that.
That movie disturbed me.
Oh wow!
Because I was disturbed by how into that blue girl I was. She was not. It was like an alien
Yeah,
and kind of like
I
an
see
animal
that,
too.
though.
But it was Zoe Saldana. I was like, by the end, I was like, yeah, I want to tie my hair to her hair, however it is they had, however they did it in the movie. But like,
It's hot. It's hot. I'm
and
looking
Teddy looked at me. He's like, oh yeah, bro. Like, yeah.
I'm looking at Matt Morrell shaking his head, and I'm thinking Matt's probably like,
Matt's like, how can you guys not want to go see it opening night 3 times?
How can you ruin such
Just
great?
went on this rant with Christian. That movie's not unrealistic because there's aliens. It's unrealistic because the Marine Corps loses.
There you go. The only compliment I will give that movie, though, was I saw it in 3D, and I thought the initial scene where they're going to the planet and the camera was like in the cockpit and you were in 3D, that I was like, whoa, this actually looks pretty cool. It had nothing to do with any of the plot, the characters, or anything. It was just, visually looked pretty cool for a moment.
I didn't see it.
But it's like 20 years later, we need a freaking sequel to these. Like,
oh, even you didn't like it?
Oh, that movie sucked.
You're the target audience. You didn't like it?
Plus, it's like Dances with Wolves. I mean, come on, we've seen it. Let's go.
Did you hear them this morning? Because that's exactly what they said.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Did you
someone
say
brought up that it was basically
Pocahontas and Dances with Wolves.
And
like
Fern
the same,
Gully. Yeah.
Same
all
like.
I haven't seen Fern Gully, but
wrapped
I'll
into
take
one.
your word on it.
But I liked the guy that called up, really criticizing you guys for, sort of wondering where the consistency has been on offense. And, quote, I can't wait till they're playing consistent professional football.
Yeah. And then I'm going to rub it in your face.
Then I'm going to rub it in your face. And I'm like...
He's going to be crowing about consistent.
Exactly.
Well,
and also implying that they, up until this point, had not been playing consistent
Well, not
football.
that. And my first question is, when was the last time they did that? Because you have to go back to like last November, excluding the Jacksonville game when the COVID All-Stars came into play in December.
Cleveland. I think the Cleveland
You'd have to
game
go
was-
back to November of last year. And which time were they competent and professional? When they didn't have enough guys on the field, or when they had too many?
Forgot about that.
Or when they were getting 3 punts blocked? Like, which part of competent and professional are we talking about? And these guys, like, you want to talk about getting your claws out?
Oh yeah,
He got real bitchy.
Teddy, Teddy, we can't just we can't just say what we're seeing. We have to just and Bill, we try and there was there's a little that tinge of that Teddy resentment for Bill.
A tinge.
Any veins coming out of the
Oh
neck?
yeah,
I mean, he has resting veins.
Yeah, Cro-Magnon Teddy was definitely in full effect.
Resting vein syndrome.
Yeah.
So, and they're going at it, and then Hardy goes, so this, let's just say they go down to Miami and, they lose, 21-17, and then they go to Pittsburgh and, maybe they drop a 21-14 game, and then they come home for Baltimore, tough team, 24-16. So are we going to be able to say they were one score games. There's nothing embarrassing about it, but you're 0-3, but you're playing consistent professional football. Congratulations.
Yeah. How about
they eviscerated this poor guy. All he guys
he was asking for it.
But all the guys point. Well, he was a little smarmy.
Yeah.
But all the guy was basically saying was, "Can we we get it? The offense hasn't been good this summer. Can we just kind of let it play out in the regular season before we write off the season?"
And that was the point. So Arkin, I called in from Vegas on Tuesday, and apparently I sounded completely depressed. People were like, doing wellness checks
I had to
on
take
me.
his belt away.
Like it was bad. It was bad until the end.
Last day of Vegas, everyone's depressed.
Oh, I know. Well, for different reasons. But the thing I came to that I said on the radio yesterday was the game plan part of it, which I do think is significant when you have good coaching, and also just playing to their strengths. I think this is, and Josh talked about it, preseason. You're experimenting, and I'll give them. I'm not giving them. I'm expecting it to be a total disaster, but I think what Paul laid out, that's the world we're living in. Like, they're going to be competitive. I don't think they're going to get blown out by everybody, but do they have enough to get over the top, to get the last score or to get the last stop? That's the question.
That last part, I'm not so sure about. I think there are teams they could get blown out by. But I that's not my bar isn't like, well, Jesus, just as long as we don't get blown out. Like to Mike's point, like that's not good enough.
Yeah.
Can they beat teams that have as much talent as they do or more? That's what I want to see.
That's what's frustrating
Last
about
year,
them.
they basically only beat the teams that they had more talent than.
Yeah. Yeah, they
On
beat
that
the hell out of
particular
them.
day.
Yeah, I mean, that's usually what happens.
They had a couple of exceptions, in my opinion,
Baltimore.
with extenuating circumstances. They didn't even. No, it wasn't Baltimore last year. They beat the Chargers, which is a team that I thought that had similar talent than them, and that was the only one that didn't have an asterisk in my mind. That was a good win.
Baltimore's 2 years ago. Right?
Buffalo,
same thing. Yeah, you're
Buffalo
right.
was completely weather-aided. Cleveland and Tennessee, because they were decimated, at the time that they played. Otherwise, you're talking about Jets, Jacksonville, like teams that they would, Houston, teams they just were vastly superior to on paper. I don't need the greatest coach that's ever lived to win those games.
Yeah.
The greatest coach who ever lived needs to find a way to consistently have his players overachieving.
That's what frustrates me about them not playing the starters in this game, because if you look at almost every single preseason prognostication, the Raiders and the Patriots are right there next to each other. 8.5 wins in Vegas. They're both right there at 8.5 wins. When you look at any list of the top 32 quarterbacks, Mac Jones and Derek Carr are usually right next to each other on all those lists. You talk about, teams that they get blown out by or that they'll beat up on, and teams that are on their level. I feel like the Raiders are exactly one of those teams, and that's why I'd love to see the starters play a little bit more,
that's
because
exactly
we have more
what
of an
Vinny
idea.
said too, right? It's like,
Yeah.
in the past when they've played teams that were any good, they needed to have something fall right or catch a break, and I think that's kind of where the Patriots have been the last couple of years.
Yep.
They could do, 2 years ago, the COVID year, they beat Baltimore in a driving rainstorm,
right as they were trying to come
But I
back.
don't care. Like, they did it, know? And, those are the kinds of things that you need to see a little bit more of.
All right, we'll take a quick break here. It is Patriots Pregame presented by Dunkin. Your phone number is 855-PATS-500. Web radio at patriots.com. Paul Perillo's taking off. We'll see you later there, Paulie. And Arcand, me, and Mike Dussault will be taking you up until kickoff here at 7:45. Quick break, and we're right back with more of your phones.
Patriot Place is the region's #1 shopping, dining, and entertainment destination. Shop your favorites, including Vineyard Vines, Express, Olympia Sports, Petco, and more. Enjoy dining at one of our 19 restaurants, including Six String Grill and Stage, Scorpion Bar, and Bar Louie. And don't forget about the entertainment. Explore your inner artist at Muse Paint Bar, watch a movie at Showcase Cinema Deluxe, or grab a controller and start gaming at Helix eSports. For a complete directory listing, please visit patriot-place.com.
In sports, if you think joy only happens after you win, think again. Look at the world's most successful athletes like Serena Williams, Brooks Koepka, and Alex Morgan. They don't spend all their days grinding away. They take time to enjoy themselves, like getting together with friends over a Michelob Ultra, because they know that happiness is the key to winning, and that joy is the whole game, not just the end game. Michelob Ultra. 95 calories, 2.6 grams of carbs. It's only worth it if you enjoy it. Enjoy responsibly. AB Michelob Ultra Light Beer, St. Louis, Missouri.
There's no season better than football season. And there's no better place to get in on all of the action than with DraftKings, the official daily fantasy sports partner of the New England Patriots. To add to the thrill, DraftKings has millions of dollars in prizes up for grabs every week. So head to the app now and check it out. If you haven't tried it yet, fantasy football is easy to play. Just pick 9 players, stay under the salary cap, and pile up points for yards, touchdowns, receptions, and so much more. There's no better way to put your football knowledge to the test than to compete for a shot at $1 million in total prizes. Download the DraftKings app now and use promo code PATS to get a shot at millions of dollars in total prizes every week. That's promo code PATS to get a shot at millions of dollars in total prizes every week, only at DraftKings. Eligibility restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com for details.
Some people are never content with simply being good. Not when they can be great. But it takes a big step to get there. In fact, it takes a leap of faith, a belief in what you're striving toward, and a willingness to make the commitment, day in and day out, to something bigger than yourself. Putnam is proud to partner with those who share their own commitment to performance excellence. This is Matt Light for Putnam Investments, a world of investing.
Join the conversation by calling the Ace Ticket hotline at 855-PATS-500 or email the show at webradio@patriots.com.
That's what they've always said about Paul.
That's what they should say.
You know what? He's so positive. That's the thing about Perillo. He's so upbeat.
Live from our studios inside Gillette Stadium, here's Christian Arcan.
All right, as we roll on, it's Patriots Pregame presented by Dunkin. The phone number, 855-PATS-500. You can email us at webradio@patriots.com. It's Christian Arcan. I'm in for Hardy tonight. You may hear from me a couple other times, although I don't know if this is going that well, so maybe you won't.
Hey, it's your first time. You're a rookie. You know?
It's true, although, you know what? Matt Morrell and I used to work together at my old job, and one of my first on-air jobs doing like an overnight show, basically, and Maddie was one of my producers. Oh. I had a lot of different producers, but you were there for a lot of it.
We bonded over hip-hop, you know?
We did. That's right. We did.
She used to spin at his college station.
That's right. And we also would have music quizzes on the air. I don't know if we want to do that in the post-game, but we certainly can if we
We'll probably get to that point, I'm
run
sure.
out of stuff to talk about.
Hip-hop talk, Catfish talk. Big fan of the Catfish show.
I love the show Catfish. It's my favorite show.
I mean, Mike Tayo, he didn't even know about catfishing at that point, right?
Because that didn't exist.
Didn't
Catfishing
exist
wasn't a thing then. But that doesn't excuse. By the way, I'm tired of people telling me, we all owe Manti Te'o an apology. I don't owe Manti Te'o anything. I don't owe him an apology. He didn't have to do those interviews. No one put a gun to his head and said, go on national television and do an interview talking about this girlfriend you never met before. And tell him how much you love him. That's going to make you. He knew. He knew he never met her. He knew he never met. He did not have to do those interviews.
Something had to be shady. That was my biggest question going into that
I'm not
documentary.
saying he was in on it. I'm not going to go there.
But he should.
But I don't feel like I need to apologize to him.
I don't think you should have been calling him, at least calling her his girlfriend. Like, and that was my question going into him. Like, how did this happen where he never met her? And then you get all the like, oh, my bad service. Like, how long did she drag that thing out?
Yeah.
Before I but
and
it
that's
was
not even to say I don't feel bad for him, because I do.
Yeah.
I feel it's a shame. It's a shame what happened to him. But I'm not going to apologize. What am I apologizing for? What, because I had a joke?
He's waiting on your apology.
By the way, he played 7 years in the NFL. That's another thing about that documentary that pissed me off. They acted like he was one and done. Like he got drafted by the Chargers and he couldn't play and he was done and he was out of football. He was on a roster in 2020.
Yeah.
2020 he was on the Bears. Like he played 7 years. That's a good career. He didn't win anything and he wasn't like a Pro Bowler, but whatever. That's a good career for an undersized linebacker.
What's he doing now? Did they say?
He's doing documentaries.
This pays well.
I don't know what he's doing these days. Anyway, I almost gave the other number. 855-PATS-500. I've almost done that like 5 times. 855-PATS-500, webradio@patriots.com. Let's go back to the phones, what do you say, and talk to Allie, who is in California. Allie, how you doing?
Hey, Race, how you doing?
What's up?
Hey, lifetime Patriots fan here since 1960.
All right.
All right? And I just called to give you guys kudos because I've been out on the West Coast now since 1998. And I know it's going to be, we're not expecting a lot from our team, but being a lifetime fan, you guys make it very bearable, and I love your analysis. I'm not going to critique you or anything like that. Just say thank you guys for us Patriots fans who are far away. How's about that?
What's that? Sorry, I missed that last part. Did you say that one again?
I just want to thank you guys for doing a great job on your analysis and keeping the interest up. And we have a team that's in a rebuilding mode.
Yeah.
After being spoiled for a couple of decades, right?
Yeah, thanks.
But,
you able to make any?
Oh
any
shoot! I
Patriot
didn't mean
games?
to hang up on him, Allie. If you I honestly didn't mean to do that. Call back if you want to. I didn't mean to call. I don't like hanging up on the old guys. It takes them a long time with those rotary dial phones to call the number, so I apologize.
Mean. But thank
I
you.
apologize.
Thank you for the call. That was
nice of you to say. Yeah, it was.
Yeah, we're trying here.
Especially to me because I don't even do this that much. Rebuild. I mean, is that fair? Is this a rebuild? Are we in a rebuild right now?
I think so.
They were a playoff team last year.
Yeah.
How much of a rebuild can it be?
It's a rebuild, though. I mean, getting back to where I think everybody wants them to be. And I mean, I think it's such an interesting year. You had the COVID year. I think any year one post Brady was going to be a little bit dicey, but. You're right. You got a quarterback last year. I mean, you can frame it how you want. You can say, hey, we had a rookie quarterback. We went back to the playoffs. Or you could say, we had a rookie quarterback and we faded down the stretch. And, we got in the playoffs. But it didn't really look like we belonged once we got there. So, Bill, we had a big free agency class last year. I do think that they've had a good couple of drafts with some solid players in it. Barmore, Mac Jones, solid bit of Thornton, and when you maybe. But I think even those classes, 19, 20, 20, or sorry, not even 19, 20, 21, they have some questions, and I think, again, that's what they need. They need these young guys to start stepping up, making plays like young Dante Hightower, young Chandler Jones. That's how you get back to where they want it to be, and right now I think that's the biggest question. Who's going to be the big playmakers on this team?
Yeah, webradio@patriots.com is the email address. Here's an email from Steven in Maine. He says, hey, guys, can this defense keep the team in it while the offense develops? And also, Deuce, did you lose some weight? Looking good, guys. Steve in Maine.
I think I sweated it out in Vegas when me and Lazar decided to, hey, let's walk to In-N-Out. It looked close when we were driving into the airport.
Everything looks like you can walk to it. You can't walk to anything.
And then we're going through the wasteland. I'm like, what are we doing? It probably was. I mean, I looked on my phone. It was only a mile, but when it's 105 degrees, and so maybe that's why I sweated it out.
Where were you staying?
Well, the team was at a nice hotel.
Okay.
We were at a slightly
in Henderson
nice
or
hotel. In Henderson.
okay.
Yeah, we were in Henderson. Which was
Love
fine.
Henderson this time of year.
Yeah, I have family that lives there, and I've been to Vegas a few times. I just each time I go back, I'm like, I don't need to come back here unless it's for something like this. It's just hot and crowded. And
when I was in college, I went to CU Boulder, and I don't know, once every couple months, me and my friends would pile into a car and we'd drive to Vegas, and wouldn't even get a hotel room.
Yeah.
And we'd just be there for 2 days.
Sleep.
And then we'd turn
But
around
that's
and
the
we'd
thing.
drive
That's what
back
no
to
one tells you.
Boulder.
2 days. That's what you need.
And I was also in my 20s. Like, it was very, very different at that time. If I tried to go back there now, I don't think it would really work. We got warm-ups here on our monitors. See anything that's jumping out to you? I see some guys jogging.
Yeah,
That's
no
about it.
Damian Harris.
Okay.
But it looks like maybe this is returners, so this could be kickoff or punt return.
Who's
so
got the inside track on
maybe
those
not.
right now?
It's a little bit interesting.
Jones, the rookie?
I think originally we thought that, but you've been seeing more and more Miles Bryant. And, Marcus Jones was dynamic. I mean, as a punt returner as you're going to find in college. So
his highlights in college are awesome.
Crazy.
Awesome.
Crazy. I mean, and that's what's exciting.
The night
and
of the
intriguing
draft,
about him.
I just spent the whole night watching his return highlights.
I know.
In Houston,
This is that's what they need. But I think he's been a little bit choppy. So they've been working Miles Bryant in. You're seeing Duggar. He's gotten some snaps in there as well. Trey Nixon. It seems like it's going to be a little bit by committee. I'm wondering if they're going to give it to Miles Bryant out of the gate and let Marcus Jones kind of earn their trust a little bit before they give him the reins. But it seems like a matter of time before he kind of steps into that role. And I mean, he was a real good corner. I mean, Paul talked about drafting speed and guys that can match up with little quick guys, and he was that for sure in college. Just quick change of direction ability, to lock guys down. So we'll see. He got some run too with the top defense a little bit here and there throughout camp, but it seems like Miles Bryant's pushed him to the back a little bit right now.
All right, 855-PATS-500. That's your phone number to chime in with us. Carl is in West Virginia, and he's got something to say. What's up, Carl?
What's up?
Hey, Carl.
Do you all think that the Patriots defense is underrated?
I love these calls. These calls from like the Shenandoah Valley or whatever, like they've been tremendous tonight. They really have.
Right to the point.
Right to the point. Just a great accent, quick question, bing, bang, bye.
I'm out.
I feel
I'll
like
hang up
Paul
and listen.
Feinbaum right now. This is awesome.
They might be. I mean, I'll just say this. I don't know what it's going to look like when we get to the regular season, but I was going into this preseason, I was more concerned about the defensive side of the ball than I was the offensive side of the ball. And that flipped for me after watching training camp. I just think the defense has been disruptive. They've made life really difficult on Mac Jones and the Patriots offense. Doesn't mean they can do it to another offense, say Buffalo's. I'm not willing to go there yet. But I love the front 7 guys. If they can get after the quarterback, I think it can cover up a lot of deficiencies. But they're going to have to do it, and they haven't really had many answers for Tua. They haven't had many answers for Josh Allen. So we'll see if things change this year.
All right, back to the emails for a sec here. Mac asks, which of the defensive backs will not make the final roster? And Deuce, before you answer that, there was another one that if I can just find it here. Yes, this is from Ray in St. Louis, who says, Mike, I know you and I are high on Peppers, but for some reason I think he's going to be a surprise cut.
Yeah.
Could Peppers be a surprise cut? Anybody else in the secondary?
Paul, close your ears. No, maybe. I mean, I don't. No, I don't totally, but
I will not be
Paul
shunned.
being silenced?
I will not be shunned.
Take his volume down. We don't need to hear him.
I really
cut
don't-
him.
I
Cut his
really
mic. Cut his
no,
mic.
I'm agreeing with you. I don't think he's.
No, I don't
mean, I
think
guess
so. But I
anything
wouldn't
could
think it's
happen.
crazy if they just look at it and say we got enough. We just can't quite fit him. But I think when I watch him play, though, he seems more involved, the middle of the defense. I don't know. I think there's something unique about him. That's why I'm intrigued with his presence out there. But I think it could be possibly more as like a linebacker role, and it could be something like week 1, you come out and you're like, wow, I didn't really see any of this in camp, but here he is playing this interesting new role.
All right. Paul, while you're out, you missed another fantastic call from the South. Just another, hey, y'all think that y'all think defense going to be good?
Yeah.
Like, these
Right
calls
to
have
the
been
point.
so good. And I was just told by Matt LePan, you guys don't often get calls from
No,
that
I guess
part of
it's
the country.
are you big
So,
down in Kentucky? Are you
evidently,
bringing in the Kentucky?
Evidently, I am. I didn't realize this about myself or who I appeal to or
Big in the
whatever. But
South. Big in the South.
That's what it's looking like right now. Any other defensive backs you think are in danger of?
Well, I mean, they don't really have many.
That's
I
true,
mean, they
right,
really.
yeah.
I mean, as far as
It's sort
like,
of the thing at every position. Like, we're talking end of the bench guys.
I mean,
but
it's like
the
I
main
brought
guys,
up like Terrence Mitchell, Sean Wade
Yeah.
earlier.
I think
is
those
there
are the
room
only
for-
questions.
Is there room for both of those guys? I don't think so. I think one of those
I think
guys
that's
has
a
to
great
go.
way to put it. I mean, we're not. Yeah, and then Sean Wade's gotten hurt. So he hasn't really been practicing, so that complicates it a little bit. I think Terrence Mitchell has a spot on the team, though. I think he's shown a little bit here and there of his continued ability to force fumbles. He did it in the first preseason game, and I don't know if he's the 1A guy now, but I think you're not going to be able to always use Jonathan Jones on the outside against matchup guys like Tyreek Hill and stuff. I think you need one more experienced tall corner, and I think he's probably it.
All right. Yvonne in Toronto wants to know how many games will Bill continue to implement this new offense before he concedes and goes into another direction? Will he concede and go in
17.
another direction? Aren't you already kind of in too deep to concede and
I-
go in another direction?
I don't think you can just scrap that playbook and move on. Now you can say this element, we're not getting it.
Yeah.
We're gonna veer away from that. We're gonna stick to this stuff. Maybe we'll get Mac more in the shotgun.
Right.
Maybe we'll allow him to spread it out a little bit more. Right.
Yep.
Evan talks
Yep.
about this a lot.
Yep.
He looks,
Absolutely.
He looks more comfortable in that. I would agree with Evan on
Yep.
that. But I don't think you can just say, well, we've sort of streamlined the offense and we've changed some of the wording so we can play faster. Never mind.
Let's go back to the
never mind about that.
complicated
We're going to
stuff.
go back to
Right.
the other stuff, which some of these guys don't know because they've never learned
And who's
it.
going to teach it to them? I mean, I
another
can't imagine
million-dollar question,
As hard
yeah.
as it is for Matt Patricia and Joe Judge to teach this new version of the offense, I can't imagine them trying to do what Josh McDaniels did and replicate his.
Yeah. I think if you're going to make a change, you have to wait till the end of the season and start over again.
bring in maybe an OC to implement it.
Yeah. We're taking a look over here at
you could do it that way if you want to, Mike. I don't know why.
we're looking at the warm-ups here. It looks like Steve Belichick out there talking with Bailey Zappi. Bailey Zappi and Mac Jones, the two quarterbacks warming up right now. Don't see Brian Hoyer.
Hoyer is out there.
Hoyer's out there too.
Yes,
Okay.
according to the Twitter machine.
All right. Heavy dose of Zappi again tonight.
I don't know,
we're
Mac.
thinking?
Mac. I always do the once over as everything look
So you have
normal.
Does he have his brace
He's
on?
got his brace on.
Okay,
and,
yeah, I see it.
So he looks.
I think
ready
he's
to
going to
go.
start. According to Reese, I think he's going to play. And if he's going to play, he's going to start.
Daniel LaRusso's going to fight.
No, right? Am I wrong on that? Like Reese thinks they're going to play a little bit.
Yeah.
If you're going to play him a little bit, does it make sense to play him in the middle of the game?
Oh, that'd be weird.
Yeah, that would be weird.
Maybe against their third stringers.
The only thing I could think of if you wanted to do something like cerebral, which I don't think would be smart, but you have him start the second half.
Yeah.
To simulate that going into the locker room, cool down. But I don't.
But then it will be like Mac Jones didn't come out to the third quarter. Is Bailey Zappi surpassed him on the depth chart? You know.
I know. I'll be asking you.
Right.
I'll be wondering that exact
controversy. Talk about it.
Manufacture it. That's what I like to do.
it.
Let's go back to the phones. 855-PATS-500 is your number. Zach is in upstate New York. Hi, Zach.
Hey, what's up, fellas?
How you doing?
Good. I'll make it short and sweet. Do you think there's too much pressure on Mac Jones' shoulders this season?
Yeah, that's I mean, it's the nature of the position, though.
I don't. I think it's just he's the quarterback.
He has to do it. I mean, I think we could talk about, are they installing the new offense the best way possible for him? I think that's a good question, and maybe in that regard, there is a little bit on him. Is he getting the best? But again, I'm sure he's spending plenty of time with Bill Belichick during the week. So I think there's a lot on Mac, but there's a lot on every quarterback. And, he has to step up. He has to be a leader and take responsibility, take ownership of the team. And that's what it is. What do you want as a quarterback?
You guys hear that?
Yeah.
Is it Kenny
Wow,
Chesney?
that is loud. I can feel it.
So
I'm like,
there are times,
in here.
in all seriousness,
Holy moly.
there are times, and I don't know if it'll be tonight like for Chesney, but there are times that I'm doing my hits on the broadcast.
Yeah.
And you can hear it.
Wow.
Like if you listen really close, you can hear it in the background.
If he does Boys of Fall, you're going to get a little emotional about it? You're going to get a little worked up?
I don't know why you got to make fun of me. Just because I'm not afraid to show my emotions.
It's a beautiful song, dude.
Hold on a second, Zoe.
It's the essence
So hold that thought.
It's the essence of football right there.
All right, 855-PATS-500. That's your phone number. Let's go to Jamaica. Talk to Omar. What's up, Omar in Jamaica? How you doing?
Go to Kentucky, Jamaica.
What's up?
What's up?
What's up?
What is your all's opinions on the Bengals?
The Bengals?
On the Bengals?
On the Bengals, they got whacked in the head by Aaron Donald yesterday. I can tell you that. By the way, I have a question about that because that opened up a whole line of stuff that I didn't even realize, and it just now sort of hit me that I may have been like talking about this thing all wrong. We were talking about the fights in Carolina, the Patriots and the Panthers fighting, and guys getting kicked out of practice. I thought they were getting kicked out by the referees. I didn't realize it's the coaches kicking their own players out.
Yeah.
So now the Rams can, if they want to, discipline Aaron Donald. They're probably not going to.
Well, they're saying they are going to.
Oh, they
They're
are?
Sit him out for the season.
They're going to suspend him?
Well, they didn't say they're going to suspend him.
Okay, well, they should suspend him. I mean, that's what you should do when you swing a helmet at somebody. But
yeah,
So I'm Miles Garrett. I haven't seen this yet. I should probably look it up.
Where do you draw the line at practice? Like, throw a football at someone, throw a helmet at someone.
I'll tell you what.
Assault with a deadly weapon.
Throw someone in the stands to potentially injure a person, a fan. Like, where do you draw the line? Like, I think what's been going on at these joint practices around the league is sort of embarrassing. And I think the only reason why you see it happen, like they play every week. You know why they don't do it during the week? Because you get fined and suspended. And it's practice, so you're not subjected to any of that, which the NFL even said.
Yeah.
So we're going to do that. You can stop it. Just make it everybody susceptible to the same punishment.
Yeah.
It'll
And
stop.
make the refs can kick guys out.
It'll stop.
Not the players.
Yeah. Now, the refs, to your point, Christian, the refs did point out individual players to the coaches.
Okay.
And I think Matt Rule said the referee told him that Chuba Hubbard that day was standing over Christian Wilkerson. And that's why Matt Rule.
I thought it was Kenny Roberts.
Oh, no, he definitely was.
Was Hubbard.
But everybody saw that.
That's assault, brother.
Gotcha.
That when we saw the tape of that, I thought that.
I still think it was a hit. I mean,
I think it was. I think he
came at him hot. He didn't hit him with his helmet.
He hit him right in the head. He stalked him from behind, and he put him out. I think that was as dirty as
I didn't see it that way at all. But I thought that the dirty plays in that practices, you could put a stop to that.
Yeah, you could.
Fine and suspend people. When you start hitting them in the pocketbook, they'll stop.
Yeah.
That's why you don't see that every game. You don't see guys getting in fights like that every single game. I'm not saying it never happens, but you don't see that on a regular basis. We've seen fights almost every single one of these joint practices. The Jets and the Giants the other day had to stop. They stopped practice like 90 minutes in because there's no ramifications, Mike.
Yeah.
I mean, like, why did these guys going to stop?
Yeah.
Sometimes coaches want them fighting too. You know? I mean,
well, the coaches
not
here
that
were,
much,
the
but
coaches here were not happy. Both of them, Rule and Belichick, were not happy after that.
Yeah, I'd imagine they're not. By the way, the caller asked, "What do we think about the Bengals? What do we think about the Bengals?"
I think they're very good.
I think they're good. I don't think they're going to be in the Super Bowl.
I don't know
again.
if they're. I don't know if they're great. I don't know if they were. I think they're probably ahead of schedule. but they're very good.
Who the hell
No,
cares?
I'm excited to see him here, and I hope it's a meaningful game at the end of the season. For the Patriots, of course.
All right, let's go to Ray in California. Hey, Ray.
Hey, I just have two questions. Do you see this Patriots team get to the playoff? And second, do you see a big year for Mac Jones on his second year?
Playoff team,
I think
Patriots.
right on the cusp. I think they're in that area, but it's going to be tougher this year. Tougher schedule. As for Mac, I don't know. We'll have to see how it all kind of comes together. I'm expecting it's going to be choppy out of the gate because it's looked choppy here. I do think that they'll get better, but the last 3 seasons, they've gone down the tubes at the end. So, again, it's just a really, really interesting season with the pieces that they have in place and guys that they need to take a step, but I don't know that they will. We'll see.
Yeah, I am going to step out now. And I would just because I know this is going to probably lead to an email or two, I would agree with Mike. I thought the hit that, I think it was Robinson was his name, right, was a complete cheap shot. Because of the setting, the practice setting, no one's expecting to get hit like that.
Right.
In practice. And to me, that's part of it. And that's part of the reaction. It's like Rocky. He don't think it's a damn show. He thinks it's a damn fight. Carolina came out there frothing at the mouth like they're playing the Super Bowl, and the Patriots are playing practice.
Right.
Yeah.
That, to me, is part of the narrative. That hit was, on the practice field, vicious, dirty, cheap. Every definition that Mike says. I just didn't think it was I don't think it was like a head hunting. I just think that the hit was completely and totally unnecessary.
Well, so now that we know,
as I thought some hits that the Patriots had, by the way, in the game.
Right.
Barmore's roughing the passer was a cheap shot.
Yeah.
And Ferentz's cleaning up of Robinson in the game was a cheap shot.
Yeah.
Good.
That was a good cheap shot. I like that one. Just so now that we know, and you guys probably already knew this, but now that I know that it's the coaches who kick the players out and not the referees, that first day, should more Panthers have been kicked out, do you think? Because 2 Patriots went out and only 1 Panther did, and everyone was like, "Oh, the Panthers are starting all these fights," and only one of them got kicked out of practice.
Because that's not really what happened. Everything started the second day on that hit.
Play, which
that
given
hit,
the people involved, it felt like a carryover.
That hit on Christian Wilkerson the second day started everything the second day.
Can I say one more thing too about this? Because I don't think that this is a point that's been really talked about enough. Christian Wilkerson's a guy fighting for a job, fighting for his livelihood, and this guy has kind of taken it from him, and I just think that sucks.
And that's part of it too. That's part. And I agree with Mike. I mean, I'm not feeling the same way about the actual hit, but I feel exactly the same way about the actual act. The act was cheap, dirty, unnecessary. Every adjective you want to
if he gets cut on Tuesday, it's just. I mean, it's already an uphill climb for him anyway, but he just doesn't even have a chance the last 2 weeks.
Let's go to John,
All
who's
right,
in
I'll see you
Nebraska.
guys.
Paul is leaving. Goodbye, Paul.
See you after
pleasure
the
as
game.
always, sir. Always nice to see you. 855-PATS-500 is the phone number. Webradio@patriots.com is the email address if you would like to get your thoughts out there before we sign off here at 7:45 and go over to kickoff. Anything else we're seeing here up on the
I can tell you one
screen?
thing. Reports here, including our own Evan Lazar. No Damian
I
Harris
keep forgetting
out there.
Lazar works here now.
Yeah, he just started.
I'm always like, why do you
He's
keep
been here
talking?
like 3 weeks.
What do you love Lazar for?
I know. I just
Not
have
talking
a
about
passion.
any other reporters. Like, geez.
I got a passion for the All-22 guys. No, but no Damian Harris. So he had left practice a little early on the second day and wasn't really seen afterwards. So, that's certainly something to consider. But you talk about Pierre Strong, Kevin Harris. Are you ready to roll in to week 1 with just Stevenson and Ty Montgomery? That feels a little light. Feels like you need one more guy.
Yeah, I'd agree with that for sure. All right, back to the phones we go. John is in Nebraska. Hello, John.
Hi. Yeah, it's just been a few years since it feels like we've had a clear-cut wide receiver 1 since the departure of Edelman and Brady. Do you think this could be the year with, the addition of that guy out of
Parker?
Yeah, that one of them could actually start to elevate beyond the rest?
I mean, not with Parker. I mean, I think Parker is what he is. I think he's a contested catch.
I think he
quick
can be their
slant
best
kind of a
wide
guy.
receiver,
He
right?
can. I mean,
I
he
mean,
can make plays. Don't get me wrong, but I think it's more of a specific situation. Whereas with Edelman, 3rd and 18 in the Super Bowl, Edelman can get open and make those big catches. I just think he's the kind of guy where and I said it to Paul. I'm like, this year, anytime they have a first down on the 18-yard line, it's Devontae Parker. Toss it up the back of the end zone. Mac has shown incredible confidence in him. I just don't think he's going to have a ton of catches. He's going to have maybe some impactful catches and impactful touchdowns. I want to see what they do with Aguilar when they really get into it, because I think he has that kind of potential with the good speed. He can play on the outside. He can get deep. No offense to Jacoby, who I think is solid in the slot. But I don't know, maybe Aguilar, but that's why everybody liked Thornton. He's got that look of a number one type receiver.
We got an email here from Daniel in Eugene, Oregon, who said that earlier in the offseason, the crew felt that Myers may be a surprise trade candidate. With recent issues coming through with Kendrick Bourne, is it possible that he may have moved himself into that category? And how serious should fans be taking these reports on a scale of 1 to 10?
Yeah, I think he's okay. I don't think Jacoby's going anywhere. I mean, Jacoby had a little bit of a slow start, maybe the first few days of camp, but then he just came on and was like Mr. Reliable, like he's usually been. So I don't really see him going anywhere. I suppose
the Bourne trade stuff was out there. I mean,
I don't think it would be crazy to see Bourne go. It's like we talk about all the time. Like, do you feel that great about this group that like you can get rid of an actual NFL guy? Like, I feel like I want to go in with these guys, let them all play, see who really starts to pop. Because Bourne didn't look that great last year early on. He kind of came on with his big plays. So you're just not in a position to say, oh, we got enough wide receivers. We're good. We're going to move on from one of these guys. I think you need everybody you can get. You need to try to have competition, push them to have one of them, emerge.
All right, let's go back to the phones. Joe is in Ohio. Joe, hello. Joe?
Oh, Joe.
Yeah, this is Joe Burrow from Cincinnati.
Oh, wow, Joe Burrow. What an amazing – this is a big deal for the show. We got Joe Burrow.
Sounds like Joe Burrow.
Who played in the Super Bowl, calling in. What's up, Joe Burrow?
Tom Brady is coming back to the Patriots.
He is? You got that? Joe, you know this? He told you that?
I'm big buddies with you.
Okay, thanks for the call, Joe. You got to do a bit. At least keep it
weird.
going.
Right,
Jeez.
right.
All he had was I'm Joe Burrow
now.
That's it.
I like Joe Burrow, though.
I'll
like
tell
Joe
you, man,
Burrow.
they love me down there.
You're big.
Love
You're
me
huge
down
in the South.
Down
Kentucky.
south. I don't know where this is coming from.
You ever thought about going to Kentucky? Maybe.
Now I am. Now I'm thinking about it. Do big numbers down there. Let's try Kobe in Pennsylvania. Kobe, hello.
Yo, what's going on, guys?
What's up?
How you doing, Past Nation?
Kobe.
Yes, sir. It's also Patriots Global for y'all who don't know the YouTube channel, 18K. Subscribe to the channel for all your New England Patriots news. But what do you guys think about this Patriots offensive line? Isaiah Wynn switching to right tackle, us hearing that he's, kind of not the happiest guy in training camp right now. Do you think he's going to be traded before the start of the season?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't think so, though. I mean, I think
that was the other big trade.
Yeah, there was a big thread today from Doug Kyde talking about just overall around the league, the offensive line depth is really thin. A lot of teams unhappy with what they have, looking for guys. And I just say the same thing as I said about the wide receivers. I feel okay about the top starting line. Like, I think, if you get Brown and Wynn and, Cole Strange coming along, David Andrews, of course, Michael Onwenu was, real promising over the last couple of years. We'll see if he can put a full season together. But, beyond that, it's a little dicey in terms of, experience and how's your confidence level. And Yadni Kajust and Justin Herron, like you talked about. I think it's same thing. You don't know for sure about your depth. I think you got to keep those starting top line guys, and hopefully he can get a season together where he's healthy and can finally hit some of that potential. It's just he keeps getting derailed by injuries.
That was my number one key to the game, was the offensive line and protecting Mac Jones. And it's not even that I think someone's going to injure him in this game. I just want them to demonstrate to me that this is something they can do. I mean, so far you haven't really seen, even in the good practices, you're getting sacked all the time. This is a problem.
It's great. And I mean, I think if there was one thing you could ask from the offense of all the reports, it's just that if they can get the protection down, if they can in the run game open some seams in the defense, and allow these running backs who are really talented and have a lot of promise to find their way and establish. I hate establish the run, but that's what I think they're built to do, is to base things off of that. That's why they went out and drafted 2 running backs. They want to make sure that this pipeline remains strong, but it starts with the offensive line. And I think if they're able to come into the regular season and be cohesive, then good things will happen.
Yeah, hopefully. Yeah, it'd be a real shame if they don't. And again, I mean, you talk about depth at these positions. There's only a couple of position groups where I feel like they have legitimate depth. Some of them, they just have a lot of players, but they're not very good. Like a wide receiver, it's a crowded room. It's not a great room.
It's a bunch of 2 and 3s. Yeah.
They got a great safety room. I think that's fine. I think that's right up there, in like the league. I think that's a good safety room. Their tight end room has 3-4 guys in it. One of them just got cut, I know, and there's only one good tight end. So is there depth, or is it just some guys?
You got two solid pros. I'd say Jonnu and Hunter Henry are solid pros. Do they move the needle as far as game planning by the defense and all we got? Probably not all that much. But I will say this. I mean, throughout camp, they seem incredibly focused on getting Jonnu Smith involved in a number of different ways. And I felt kind of the same way last year.
There's been a campaign for him, for sure, right?
It has been. And I was surprised last year. I think, everybody was kind of mad at the media because we watched training camp. We're like, wow, Jonnu Smith's going to have a good season. He seems heavily involved. And then, he just never looked comfortable. Everything that they did to him, it was like he's got a twist for the ball. It's not quite in stride. And, he had a couple drops. He had, a couple of turnovers involved with plays that were meant to go to him. So, I don't know. I mean, I didn't totally write off those second-year free agents making some kind of jump. And but again, I don't want to get sold on the fool's gold again. I want to see it happen in the regular season. But Aguilar, him, Devon Godchaux, they've all been really good in camp, and I just hope it carries over because those could be game-changing kind of guys.
I wanted to ask you about this, Deuce, and Zach in Maine actually sort of is echoing my thoughts on it, but he says, guys, I feel like our team is a bunch of old guys. Malcolm Butler before he got cut, Devin McCourty, Brian Hoyer, Matthew Slater. These are sort of the core guys. They're all really old, even the veterans that they picked up 2 years ago. Not exactly old, but they're not young. Is there not enough young talent on this team? Does that go back to the drafts?
I mean, all the people he named, I don't think are really playing huge roles.
I don't think so either. McCourty is. But
yeah, but otherwise,
and Butler's not playing anything.
Gone.
So.
Slater is what Slater is.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're trying to get to that point. I mean, I do think, but you look at like the rankings of where teams are, they still look like an old team. I think it's skewed a little bit. I'd like to see that, actually after the season in terms of playing time. But again, another major theme. Getting these young guys to emerge. Everyone's excited about Anthony Jennings. Everyone was excited about Tyquan Thornton. That's what they need. They need these new guys to step up and make plays in big moments. They can't just be guys who are out there playing. You need to find your next generation of playmakers on this team, and that's what the opportunity is. We talk about depth. Just guys we don't really know. We haven't seen Anthony Jennings get a huge chance. So they're going to have those opportunities, and if they step up, the Patriots will be good. And if they don't, the Patriots are going to be in trouble.
All right, we got about 5 minutes left to go here before we get to kickoff. Patriots and the Raiders. And because it's the Patriots and the Raiders, and because the Raiders are being coached by a guy who was here for a very long time and who many of us, I think, believed was going to be the next head coach of this New England Patriots team. There's a history here. Obviously, the regular season game is going to be more dramatic than this one, but any of that sort of move you at all? The history, the McDaniels-Belichick thing, the Patriots and the Raiders 22 years ago, and the snow game and all that. Like there's Sugar Bear Hamilton and everything. Like there's these two franchises. There's a lot. There's a lot of history and a lot of baggage with these two teams.
And that was what was weird being out there and seeing so many Patriot guys. And and just everywhere you choose, look, it's like Chandler Jones, big smile. Hi, coach. Coming up to Bill, you're like, I thought you guys hated each other. Brandon Bolden, who was just such one of the most beloved guys.
Chandler Jones had all his clothes on, too, right? That was good. Yeah.
That's helpful. He had his number on. You could identify who he actually was. But, I came away feeling like I'm kind of a Raiders fan now. Like, not to infringe upon anything Patriots, but, as far as the AFC West goes, it's a really likable team. And, we talked about the joint practices. Like, there was no combustibility at any point in the joint practices. There was no jawing. There was no tackling to the ground. There was even, watching Hard Knocks last night, and they're yelling at each other, and you could tell, like, ooh, this could get ugly if somebody pushes somebody the wrong way. They played with respect for each other, and again, I hate to bring them back up, but like just getting to watch the talent that they have on their team, it's pretty cool to see, and I'm excited for Josh, to be able to play with those guys and kind of step in with a bunch of toys to play with and see what he can do on offense. So I get it though. It's weird because the baggage, and you used to hate the Raiders and the Tuck rule, and you have all that bad blood, but it kind of felt like it dissipated when you're out there, and especially with Bill just glowing about their facility, which by the way for the media wasn't as great. It was a little bit difficult to get around there. You were ready to be escorted, a lot of locked doors, and then like I said, they put us on joint practice. I mean, we're watching them on one of the channels.
How was their radio station?
I didn't see it. They wouldn't let us do radio there, but it was a nice place, but just a little bit tedious trying to get around.
Any sort of, I don't know, I don't want to say resentment because I don't know if that's the right word, but Josh McDaniels was here for a long time. He had an opportunity to go coach in Indy. He was on the plane and then turned around. Well, he didn't turn around on the plane, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And sort of didn't and came back here and stayed as an assistant. We heard that he wanted to stay here, but then felt like there was nowhere to go and that he'd be here as an assistant or as a coordinator and never as a head coach. Was there maybe something, in your opinion, that was promised to him? Or
I mean, it's hard to say. I mean, I think if he was signing up for this, I mean, you have to know that Bill is kind of Bill, and Bill's going to do what Bill's going to do. And I think, signing up with the anticipation of like, well, this is going to be happen for me at a certain point, that might be a little bit tedious. But I could just say, from watching Josh and Bill during the 2 days kind of stand together and watching things, it looks exactly like they used to look when they were standing out on these practice fields. So I'm sure Bill understands it's an opportunity for Josh, and hopefully they were on the same page with coaches being taken and all that kind of stuff.
I was going to say Josh took a whole bunch of his guys.
And Mick Lombardi was certainly really involved with the offense out there. So who knows for sure? But we know that's the nature of this business, that guys go and when they have opportunities.
And this means extra for Josh McDaniels because we all still remember 2009, Week 5.
Pumping the fist.
DJ Pauly D out there on the field. A triple fist pump.
I know.
Rene Rancourt out here. Just fist pumping his little head off.
You got to bring this up.
I don't think they won another game.
You got to bring that up to Fred because Fred was at the game. This is one of the famous stories of just he was livid with that, livid with it. And one last thing just to mention. So Damian Harris, Sean Wade, Devin Asiasi, Bill Murray, Harvey Longy, Tyquan Thornton, Christian Wilkerson are the players that Evan hasn't spotted. So Devin Asiasi is a significant one.
All right, well, there you go. You hear the music. That means it is time to get the kickoff. Patriots and the Las Vegas Raiders. It's preseason week 3. This has been Patriots Pregame presented by Dunkin. I'm Christian Arcan. It's Mike Dussault. And for Paul Perillo, we say enjoy the game. We'll be back post-game. Matt Morrell, great job. We'll talk to you after this one goes down.
Thank you for downloading this podcast. Subscribe on Apple, Google Play, and everywhere else you listen. Like the show? Please rate and review us. Listener comments and ratings help keep us high in the podcast rankings so new listeners can find us. Be sure to check Patriots.com for more news and more podcasts.
Yeah. Okay. That